Council meeting, and it is Wednesday, February 10, 2021. And I will call this meeting to order with my trusty gavel here. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Let me get there. Give me 1 second. Councilmember Hinsey?
Here.
Councilmember Mosca?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Crayons?
Here.
And Mayor Blakespear?
Here.
Record will show that all members of the City Council are present.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll call on my Deputy Mayor to lead us in the pledge.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Now we have a special presentation. This is a presentation on the North County Transit District Rail Improvements and Safety Program by NCTD Chief of Safety, Sean Loofborough.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak to you tonight, specifically focused on our rail improvement and safety program around our new Charger locomotives. So I do have a couple slides that I will throw up now. Okay. So again, this will be focused on the Charger locomotives. As some background, NCTD has a current fleet, which did just change Monday because we commissioned our new Chargers, but our old fleet was 7 locomotives that operated on the San Diego subdivision to support our coaster operations. 2 of them were F-59s that were purchased in 2001, and 5 were F-40s that were refurbished all the way back in 1993. So through the actions of the staff and the board of directors in June of 18, we approved the purchase of 5 of these new Charger locomotives built by Siemens to replace 5 of our oldest locomotives, those F-40s. We also, as part of this agreement, had the option to purchase 4 additional locomotives, 2 that would replace our F-59s, which were the newer portion of that fleet, and then 2 which would support the expanded coaster service based on the Sandag Regional Plan. On March of last year, the board authorized the purchase of the 2 option locomotives, which were funded by Sandag. And then in September, the board authorized the final notice to proceed for the final 2, which would replace our F-59 locomotives. That brings us for a total of 9 locomotives. The following slide sort of has a background of the funding for those 5 locomotives, totaling about $70 million through various grants and federal and state funds. And you can see the breakdown on the associated pie chart here. So again, 9 in total. What that does for NCTD is provides our fleet a great upgrade, which provides more current, more efficient, and lower emission Tier 4 locomotives. It does support the increased coaster service frequency based on the Sandag Regional Plan. The initial 5 locomotives have been received, and the final 4 are due by June of 2023. One thing to note with the new Charger locomotives, that they are significantly quieter than our old fleet. So as a rule of thumb, a increase or decrease of about 10 decibels results in either a noise that's twice as loud or half as loud or half as quiet. For note, our old F-40 locomotives at idle were about 68 decibels, and the new Chargers are at 58. So the new ones at idle will be a half as loud as our old fleet. So that is something significant to note. So if you do think that you can hear the train before it comes, depending on time of day and how far it is, you may not be able to because they are that much quieter, as well as more efficient, which is better for all of us, reduced emissions and effects for greenhouse gases. I'm going to briefly go through the commissioning plan, what we did on the safety side to make sure that the Charger locomotives that we had were compliant with all the appropriate regulations, and what we did to make sure they were tested. That included conditional acceptance, training for the crews as well as the mechanical staff, testing and burn-in on site, positive train control testing, as well as testing the grade crossings. And then we perform simulated service before final acceptance and operational sign-off. On the PTC testing, we wanted to make sure that it was incorporated with our positive train control system. That included high-speed testing, uphill and downhill braking, emergency stopping. Again, we want that train to communicate with the wayside equipment, as you can see in the diagram there, which then feeds back to our operational control center to make sure that the trains are running safely on the railroad. And again, ultimately, this is a required system by the Federal Railroad Administration to make sure if there is a situation where the engineer is unable to operate the train will stop itself. So that's ultimately what's designed for, a huge safety enhancement to prevent potential large-scale accidents and injuries of any kind. The testing was completed in November successfully based on the regulatory requirements. And again, the PTC system overall makes sure that we have continued safe operation on the railroad for the future with these new locomotives. We also tested at all the grade crossings, and so this is no significant task. This is a very significant task. We do have to test the trains on both tracks. So if it's multi-track with main 1 and main 2, we have to test the train on both tracks as far as also both directions for each of the crossings. So it does require operations and communication with dispatch, make sure we have the appropriate flagging and oversight. And again, we want to make sure that the signal system, that the shunting, that all the crossings work as effective, and again, ensures integrity and safety of our locomotives. So we did pass all the signal testing that was required last November. We also conducted simulated revenue service. So we just ran the trains back and forth as we would for a normal coaster service. We want to make sure all the equipment on all the trains and the cars worked effectively and properly. That include operating the doors, all the signaling. Again, it's more testing for the grade crossings. And we continue to run these test trains during the vacant train slots that we had during COVID-19. So again, we are running a reduced schedule currently based on COVID-19. So where we were not running trains, we inserted those test trains to run to make sure there would be no issues once we started revenue service. The simulated service, again, allows us to work out any potential bugs and allows for final acceptance of those locomotives. And we do have a checklist that we went through each of these to make sure that all the regulatory requirements and everything was done properly to make sure that those locomotives are safe for revenue service. We did start on February 8th, so we did have representation from the mayor and deputy mayor. So I do appreciate the words that you said, as well as Representative Levin and some other members that spoke. And again, it's a milestone to make sure that we do have these new locomotives, again, more efficient, less maintenance, more emission friendly, overall benefit for our customers and the region in whole. We still have the reduced service levels based on COVID, but we are certainly looking at potential opportunities based on ridership to go back to regular service and even enhanced service based on the Sandag Regional Plan. As far as our public communication plan, we did go out and announce through social media that we do have the chargers, as well as overhaul the coach cars. So we're currently in an overhaul process for all the coach cars. So that's really the cars where the majority of the passengers will ride. We've completed 4, the 5th one is almost done. And we're on a program to complete 4 a year all the way through 2026. And that will be a complete midlife overhaul. That includes new paint, new seats, carpet, et cetera, throughout the cars, really enhancing the customer ride for our folks that do ride the chargers, or excuse me, the charged locomotives and the cars. So we have updated our website with the new material. We're doing these presentations. So I appreciate again the opportunity for the safety outreach to highlight some of the things that we've done for our charger locomotives in the fleet to make it safer and more efficient for everybody. And again, I appreciate the participation from the mayor and deputy mayor at the press conference that we had Monday, and those chargers did start revenue service, and so you'll see them up and down the San Diego subdivision in the future. That's really all I had to present tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have on the panel.
Does our chair of North County Transit District want to say a few words? Thank you so much, Sean, for the presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And the outreach is and presentation is also, I'm glad to see you here, spreading the good word. We do definitely, I've heard from a lot of people about the benefits of the less polluting, quieter trains and how that's going to impact quality of life. So that's all good. I know in our city, like some others, we're having conversations around the rail corridor and the cross connections that are necessary, and we will continue that conversation. I know that your presentation tonight is about the new locomotives and the the changes in safety issues. So I appreciate that and look forward to continuing to improve public transit here in Encinitas.
And I just had one quick question. So do you expect to be able to provide more service once we come out of COVID? Will these trains give you the opportunity to provide more frequency?
Absolutely. So that's ultimately the goal. Right now, really, it is driven by COVID. But once those numbers do come back up, we do want to run more service, starting with additional trains where it makes sense. And we wanted to have continuous service. So not only reduce the headway, so decrease the time in between trains, but provide more service and opportunity. And those chargers directly give us the chance to do that, just based on the reliability of the fleet itself and the equipment and everything that's on there. So we are absolutely looking at it, and maybe sooner rather than later. So we're looking at it hard right now to see if there's some potential opportunity to add service. But unfortunately, the limitations of COVID have presented some challenges for us as far as what makes sense for us to enhance, to really restore service back to its original levels, and then ultimately enhance it as discussed based on the regional plan.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilmember Mosca.
Sean, thank you for being here, and thank you for your presentation. I do appreciate the decisions of the board of directors for NCTD to pursue new locomotives. They're needed, if only to replace the ones that we've had, and also to increase frequency when we kind of get past COVID. I'm wondering if I can get some information from you on the plan NCTD has for electric buses. This is obviously not part of your presentation, but not everybody takes rail. Some people are still taking bus, and just I see MTS moving forward with electric fleet, MTA up in Los Angeles moving forward with electric fleet. Just wondering what the plan is for NCTD. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we can certainly provide that information. We are starting a pilot with some zero emission buses. It's good. Some of them will probably be electric, as well as the hydrogen option. So that's the other option that you can have for zero emission buses, and we're working on the infrastructure on what that looks like. So we do have items coming up for our board of directors, and we can certainly communicate that to you through Board Chair Krantz on what those initiatives are. But yes, we're absolutely looking at it. We do have our first electric buses are coming, I believe, towards the end of the year as part of the pilot. But I'll make sure that I provide. Reach back to staff and provide that information, and we can provide an update to you.
Thank you, and I would imagine too that our staff is working with you folks in terms of capturing that decrease in greenhouse gases as well. Because there are actions that we're taking that contribute to the decrease in greenhouse gases. With the adoption of alternate fueled vehicles that you guys are going to adopt.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's great in the long term. It's certainly going to be a requirement, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. But we have to do it right, because it does require some changes as far as our infrastructure and where we would actually charge these buses if they were electric, for example, or if they were hydrogen, how we would fuel them. So we're working through all that, but we can certainly provide an update on those.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I would like to emphasize one point Sean made, which is that these new locomotives allow us to increase the level of service due to their reliability. And then as the new locomotives continue to come in that replace the others, the other old locomotives, then we're getting that much more opportunity to expand our schedule. And then ultimately we get the locomotives and train sets that Sandag has provided the opportunity, the 50 million plus, to make those acquisitions. So it's a phased approach. Ultimately, the goal is to essentially double the number of trains that run in the corridor with peak service every half hour and at least a train every hour. And hopefully we can run it late into the night. So anybody that might want to go to Gaslamp could do so by train.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. We will move on to the next item, which is oral communications.
Yes, Mayor, we do have several, and we'll be taking 30 minutes of oral communications at this time, and then the remainder of the oral communications will be heard at the end of the meeting. And I just wanted to remind all of our speakers, Oral communications is for those items that are not listed on the agenda. So if I call your name and you actually wanted to speak on an agenda item, please just let me know. Our first speaker is Yolanda Messman. Yolanda, you can start when you're ready and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you for your time. My name is Yolanda Messman and I've been an Encinitas resident for 11 years. For the past 9 years, I've been living on Newcastle Avenue at the top of Glen Park with my family. And I sent an email to the city on January 22nd regarding the issue with the homeless people in the park, which I hope some of you read. And I assume, nevertheless, that everybody here is aware of this issue, which has been going on for well over a year and started spinning completely out of
that particular outline on whatever community report we have.
Sorry, I'm not sure. Should I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's been spinning out of control for the last few months. So there are 2 issues I would like to address. And the first one is the park is supposed to be closed from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. And why are people still allowed to spend the night in the park? Because this will keep attracting new people to come and live in the park. And secondly, unfortunately, sadly, many of the permanent residents in the park have mental health issues, which has created an out of control situation with threats of violence and even worse directed to the visitors of the park as well as to the residents, nearby residents. And I would like to point out that this random and unpredictable behavior happens 24 hours a day. So the park, and especially the pavilion in the park, has been taken over by a few people and can no longer be used by anybody else. I can give you many examples of all the disturbances that have happened, but would advise you to talk to the sheriff's department and the deputies about this. They have been coming out and helping with this situation and doing all they can. Of course, I'm aware that this week there has been a successful effort to get a few homeless people to leave the area. My worry is that it's just a matter of time before things get worse again, since we are still currently letting people sleep in the park. So my question is, why is the city not enforcing the nightly closing of the park? And what is the city planning on doing to control this going forward? So I also want to acknowledge that this is a sad matter for all parties involved. And I appreciate all efforts made by so many people working on trying to find solutions in everyone's best interest. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Tom Alper. Tom, you can start when ready. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. So I'm calling in about the overdevelopment in the Northwest Corridor. So where La Costa Avenue meets PCH, we have the new Alila Maria Beach Hotel, and it has 130 rooms. I've looked at a detailed traffic report prepared by LOS Engineering, Inc. And there's going to be about 1,300 additional daily trips because of that hotel. And then across the street, they're talking about a 72 unit apartment complex on Vulcan, right there in that, literally 50 or 100 yards away. Right next door is a proposed Maria Village. And then about, half a mile up towards the I-5 is another development. And then there's 2 big developments in Carlsbad, 322 room hotel and 136 townhomes, just about a mile up at Avenida Encinitas. So all this adds up to about 10,000 additional daily trips. It's unbelievable. And we just don't have the adequate infrastructure to support this new development that'll keep pedestrians and cyclists and motorists safe. There's no safe controls for cars entering and exiting the 255 unit Sea Bluff community on PCH, which is just south of La Costa Avenue. And I know there's been a roundabout that's been planned there, which would be great and is a good solution, but I'm hearing it's like 5. That's a long way away. That really needs to be in before these new things can go in, these new developments can go in. So, you know, the one that worries me the most is probably Murca Village, because not only is it a huge problem on the PCH side with lack of traffic controls, a hotel that hasn't even opened yet, and we're talking about new development, but the Murca Village is talking about subterranean parking up for 200 cars or roughly, and it's only about 100 yards from the bluff where three people, you know, were buried alive and killed. And that's a lot of grading and digging and shaking and blocking, you know, diverting water that naturally runs downhill from the I-5 towards the ocean. And it's just, you know, a slide waiting to happen right next to where it already happened. So it's, you know, there's all kinds of safety issues, particularly with Murca Village, but cramming all this development into this northwest corner is kind of crazy. I really, truly believe it's a safety problem. And I think that we need a moratorium on issuing permits to these new developments until we see what kind of traffic patterns and issues arise because of this brand new, beautiful hotel. So not anti-development, just pro-safety. So I'd hate to see people buried alive again. So
Thank you, Mr. Alper. That is your 3 minutes.
thank you.
Our next speaker is Jody White. Jody, you can start when ready.
Hi, I'm actually speaking to an agenda item,
Okay, what item is that, Jody?
the Equity Committee.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much. I'll call you during that item. Next
Okay.
speaker is Jan Lawson. Jan?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I too am a resident of Cardiff, and I live directly on Glen Park and have lived here for over 32 years. Love the park. It's absolutely the most wonderful place to live, but we have had a problem all last year with homeless people starting to live in the park. But the problem did not get really severe until a couple of months ago when a new group of men moved in. They are violent, they're aggressive in their speech, they're aggressive with each other. They're picking fights with local people that are in the park, walking their dogs. We can hear them day and night, and we're waking up most mornings to hearing people that have voices in their heads, having arguments with themselves, and they're very threatening. They're starting to threaten women that are walking along the park, which terrifies me. They need to be removed. I know that the police, or the sheriffs rather, are doing the best that they can, considering the restrictions that are put on them by some Supreme Court decision. But something needs to be done in providing shelter for them. And I know a lot of homeless people do not wish to go to a shelter because of the restrictions that are placed on them. And so they would rather remain on their own. And the Sheriff's Department has done a wonderful job the last week and a half in stepping up their attention to the park. And things have improved, but people are starting to return even today. The amount of resources that are being put to this from the Sheriff's Department is extensive, probably in the amount of money that it's costing. And I wish that money could go to providing shelters. We had a problem here probably about 12 years ago, and it was resolved with the help of the city council. I wonder if we couldn't do some things like make it a little less hospitable for them to stay here, because they've taken over the pavilion for the last full year. And one of the things that I would like to see them do, and someone told me they thought it was a little aggressive. I don't think it is, but turn the sprinklers on so that the sprinklers are on the pavilion, so that it's no longer a nice covered building for them to take over all those tables. They're sleeping on the tables, under the tables. They have all of their possessions there. It's a filthy mess. And it seems to me that they need to be citing these people when we call about violent arguments that we're hearing literally day and night. Either there's turf wars going on, that started a couple of months ago, or they're arguing with the people in their heads. We had in December 31st of this year, a man enter our neighbor's property and our property, and he was looking for people he had to assassinate, and he thought they were under our deck. My husband and I, unfortunately, were not home, so we were not able to call the police. Our neighbor's guest did call the police. There was a warrant out for his arrest in LA. LA chose to pass on that, and so he was not arrested here either. And I believe I've seen him in the park.
Dan, I'm sorry, that is your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jennifer Skolnick. Jennifer, I don't see her name. Oh, here she is. Jennifer, you can start when ready. You do have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you guys so much for all the work that you do for our community. So I am Jan's neighbor. Jan and Mike's neighbor, we share a wall. And so the person who trespassed on our property seems to have serious mental health issues. Like Jan mentioned, he was saying that he wanted to assassinate people. And he was on both of our properties looking in the doors, and the person who happened to be visiting us at the time felt the need to defend themselves with a shovel. And that's when I called the police, and the police came out and they were able to arrest him. But again, they weren't able to hold him, I guess because no crime has been committed. And, you know, we have 2 small children and we love to use the park. We bought the house because we love being on the park. It's a really wonderful local community that uses it. A lot of regular families down at the playground. We use it for tennis. We use it to climb the trees. And, you know, the local community just isn't using it anymore. And it's because these homeless people who, you know, I feel terrible for, but like they don't belong in the park. They belong in some sort of supportive transitional housing. People aren't using the park anymore, and it's because they're dangerous and, you know, they're yelling obscenities. And they're looking for people who are calling the cops on them and, you know, trying to identify the people, our neighbors, saying, you know, this effing blonde girl, we think she called the cops. And, you know, it's really scary. And, you know, we know that they're violent and we know that they have mental health issues, and that's just a very dangerous combination. And it's very scary to think that we're going to have to wait for something really bad to happen in order to clean up the situation. And so we're just really asking for your help that before something really terrible happens, that the city council, that our government is able to help us out. You know, the police have been out on a regular basis, the fire department has, and we appreciate all of the services. But ultimately, people should not be living in that park. There needs to be other solutions. And so I just really plead with you to try to figure out something that works for them and also helps the local tax-paying community that really just wants to stay safe and have the park back for their kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Our next speaker is Diane Mandel. You can start when you're ready.
Okay, yes, I am speaking for a council position.
Okay, that's oral communications. We're not there yet, right? Well, no, council positions is not on the agenda tonight. Commissions are, so if you're ready for the commissions.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'll call you during that item. Thank you so much.
All right.
Next is Cindy Cremona. I saw Cindy on here.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Sorry.
I'd like to speak about 12A.
12A. Okay, thank you, Cindy. Then the next speaker is John Murca. John, you can start when you're ready.
Hold on a second. I'm John Murca. I live right down the street from Glen Park, and I have the same issue as the other folks that were speaking. We've lived here for almost 40 years. We've used the park extensively with our two daughters, the twins, as they grew up. Now we have two grandkids that come out from Arizona that we take to the park, and quite frankly, we're not comfortable taking them to the park anymore. And as mentioned, you heard all the problems. I won't go through the problems. I think it's time for the solutions. I was told that the city cannot do anything about it until they adopt some kind of plan that gives the city or whoever the opportunity to relocate these places to a facility that's been approved by whoever approves such things. I think that's fine and dandy, but on the way there, we have to have other solutions to this. We can't have these 4 or 5 people screaming and cursing. One of them came up on San Leo the other day and threw my garbage can full of yard clippings into the middle of the road on San Leo, and traffic was basically blocked. Fortunately, I was home. I had to go clean the whole damn thing up, but the guy was obnoxious. My neighbor asked him, why he did that. He told me to F off, and if he didn't like it, call the cops. So these people are not somebody that we can deal with rationally. They're irrational. I feel sorry for them, but I don't think the little community around Glen Park has to take on all the responsibility for the city of Encinitas. I think these people need to be relocated, and maybe you should use the school you bought up on the south of Moonlight, put them in there or put them someplace, but they don't belong here where there's hundreds and hundreds of people come every week with little kids. This is one of the nicest parks in the whole area. And I believe it's the city's responsibility to do something now. I looked at your item on it. There was to be determined as when you're going to talk about this. I think to be determined should be tonight or at the latest the next meeting. And you've heard everything from these other folks, and they're exactly right. And I just want to, double down on that. And it's time to do something about these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Irene Abraham. Irene, did you want to speak during oral communications or just for commissions?
Sorry, just this is Irene Abraham. Yes, I'd like to speak for the commission.
Okay,
position.
I'll call you during that item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Irene. June, the same question. June, did you want to speak during oral communications as well as commissions or just for commissions?
I have a public comment and I want to speak during commission.
Okay,
Please.
so go ahead and do your oral communication, your public comment now, and then I'll call you again during commissions.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is June Hansberger, and I am a 30-year resident of Leucadia. I am speaking tonight because I'm concerned about the lack of a safe rail crossing in North Leucadia. We have the longest stretch in Encinitas without a safe rail crossing, and a recent article in the Coast News explains that the Transit Enforcement Service unit of the Sheriff's Department will increase its presence along the rail line due to the introduction of the quieter locomotives. And we just heard all about those tonight, which they do sound great. The article states that the deputies will enforce penalties for anyone caught trespassing within the NCTD right-of-way, and citations for such violations can carry fines up to $500 and potentially up to a 6-month jail sentence. As you're well aware, North Leucadia is the most densely populated section of Encinitas, yet we lack a safe rail crossing. Please consider prioritizing a rail crossing in Leucadia along with your prioritization of the Verde crossing in Cardiff. The community of North Leucadia deserves a safe crossing, not $500 fines or jail terms when we are just trying to reach the beach, the businesses, post office, and move around our community safely. Thank you so much for your consideration tonight. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, June. Next speaker is Dan Vaughn. Dan, did you want to speak during oral communications or only during commission interviews? I don't see him on here. Okay, how about Christine Schindler? I don't.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that. Thank you, Kathy, for your patience. My name is Christine Schindler. I live in East Encinitas. More transit, good. Helping our homeless, good. I just wanted to say that before I went on to my remarks. I recently participated in my first focus group for the Santa Fe Improvement Project. I was very impressed by everyone involved, city staff, the consultants, the community outreach person. I thought it was very well done, very effective, and I look forward to being involved in that project as it unfolds. So I just wanted to share kudos about the focus group. I think I came to a previous city council meeting and to let you know that I had filled out an application for a Safe Routes to Parks grant with Joy, who used to be on your environmental commission. Unfortunately, we were not successful in getting the grant. There was one other applicant from San Diego. They did not get the grant either. However, I'm very motivated to still accomplish some of the great things that we had in our grant submission. So I can continue the discussion with Nick Buck and Park and Rec and others. So I will persevere. And I wanted to say thank you to the new city manager and others that were supportive of the grant application. In general, I am very impressed with city staff. I have opportunity to work as an advocate with many in traffic, park and rec, in planning group and so forth. And I'm just very impressed with everyone that I work with. And they just keep responding to my emails. So I sure appreciate that. I don't know if you know this, but next Wednesday, a week from today, is Random Acts of Kindness Day. After the last year that we've had, random acts of kindness are very important. And I know with the pandemic and everyone being masked, we tend to maybe not reach out and do things for people the way we used to, but I think we can always find a way to do a kind gesture. So just wanted to make you aware of that, official day. I think that's it. Thanks so much. I appreciate your service to our community.
Great. Thank you, Christine. Our next speaker is Renette Yeomans. Renette, did you want to speak during oral communications or only during item 12A?
Yes, I would like to speak on 12A. I'm sorry, that's what I signed up for. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All righty.
And then Michael George, you're next. Did you want to speak under oral communications or only during the commission interviews?
I'm sorry, Kathy. Yes, I want to speak on both oral communications and then on the 10A, I believe it is.
Okay, you can go ahead and start. You have 3 minutes for your oral communications, and then I'll call you again during commission interviews.
Okay.
Go ahead and start.
My name is Michael George. I reside at 1703 Gascony Road, Encinitas. I've lived there since 2001. I am the president of Encinitas Bocce Club. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Arts for their efforts to obtain shade coverings for the Oakcrest Park bocce courts. It is in this spirit of cooperation which enables problems to be solved. As you recall, these shades were not part of the planned improvements to the park. Many of the people who play bocce at these courts during the summer are elderly people like myself and are grateful for the shade that this will provide. We are very grateful for the cooperation of the department. Working in cooperation with each other, progress is being made to put this in place so all can enjoy bocce in our community. We think the Department of Parks, Recreations, and Arts is to be commended for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Ann Skelly. Terry, you can start when ready. You need, Terry, can you unmute your microphone? Terry, you need to unmute your microphone. We can't hear you. We're having difficulties. Terry, if you can hear me, can you please unmute your microphone? Okay, well, we will be able to have that. Mayor, that concludes 30 minutes of public comments. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 left that we can move to the end of the meeting.
Let's just go ahead and allow them to speak now. We were able to move through a lot more.
And you have quite a few. Okay, next speaker is Elena Thompson. Elena.
Oh, hi, everyone. Happy February. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I wanted to thank the city manager for her work plan review at the January city council meeting and say that I fully endorse the city's hiring of a mobility manager to implement the city's ambitious and ongoing transportation, mobility, and infrastructure goals in alignment with building a safe community, the protection of public safety, and for purposes of climate action planning and true mode shift in Encinitas. Thank you. It's a great idea to ensure that your vision, the current city council, and strategy has sufficient staff and budget to meet your strategy and goals for the city of Encinitas. Our transportation and public safety infrastructure is in need of continued good planning, development, and finally, the implementation of key projects such as the streetscape and others on our roadways that are currently crowded and somewhat unsafe. We like the idea of more bike lanes and sidewalks. And given the various bonus density projects coming soon to Encinitas that will impact our overall mobility and quality of life in Encinitas, we feel that the hiring of a mobility manager is essential to get this right and get it done now. By bringing on a mobility expert, an ATP champion at the city, Active Transportation, and empowering them to lead and implement, the City Council can fully achieve its former and continued articulated vision and strategy. At this week's TPSC, the Traffic and Public Safety Commission meeting, even your traffic commissioners all raised their collective hands in support of the hire. At Encinitas Bike Walk, where I'm a member, they too are in support, I've heard recently. Please listen and act. Lastly, I would also urge a representative from the city to attend the monthly Encinitas Bike Walk advocacy meetings. I'm not asking for the formation of an actual committee dedicated to Encinitas biking and walking per se, or led by an elected official. I'm simply asking for you to please advance the hiring of this individual at the city now and allow the city manager to implement your ambitious and noteworthy strategy and goals in your current term. We would be ever so thankful. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Our next speaker is Stephanie Wheeler. I do not see her on the list. So I'll move to Doug Waringa. Doug?
Hi there. Is the audio okay?
Yes, we can hear you. And are you speaking on oral communication and item 8E on consent?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Hey, so my name is Doug Wieringa. I'm an 18-year resident homeowner living in northwest corner of Leucadia. First, I'd like to thank the mayor and city council for your time and service. The city currently has grave liability exposure due to the lack of adequate infrastructure to ensure pedestrian, bike, and vehicle traffic safety in the northwest Leucadia along the La Costa Avenue corridor. The risk is especially acute in advance of petitioned high-density developments in the area, which project 9,000 new vehicle daily trips along La Costa Avenue. And that does not include those coming to and from Carlsbad's own high-density projects across from Ponto Beach. In advance of the city's March annual capital improvement planning meeting, I wanted to make a few suggestions about safety critical infrastructure improvements along the La Costa Avenue corridor. As a longtime resident whose family walks, bikes, and/or drives this West La Costa corridor daily, I feel well equipped to make appropriate suggestions. One, we need to separate with physical barrier from cars the bike and pedestrian lanes. This includes bollards and/or curbed sidewalk. Reduce the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. The entire corridor is bordered only by homes. Most neighborhoods in Encinitas have 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. The higher speeds do not increase traffic throughput. The bottlenecks are the traffic lights at 101 and Highway 5. Please add roundabouts at Sheridan Avenue and Vulcan Avenue. Stop lights or stop signs will improve our safety, but will back up traffic, especially at non-pandemic rush hour or during heavy beach usage days during the warm seasons. Weekend days, stop traffic already stretches from the beach to Highway 5 along La Costa. Add speed bumps to Andrew and Sheridan Avenues so traffic doesn't divert to the local neighborhoods. If you haven't already, I'd also encourage review of a change.org petition which relates to these concerns and those of others expressed tonight. More than 1,000 residents have signed the petition to push back against high density development petitions in this neighborhood. It cites traffic and safety concerns, as well as irrevocable impact to our fragile ocean, beaches, and lagoon. I sent an email to the city council and mayor with that link with it. Hopefully you saw it. Finally, I'd ask that you please prioritize spending towards our critical safety issues along La Costa Avenue in your annual capital improvement planning meeting. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker is Carol Heil. Carol, you can start when you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, Encinitas council members and Mayor Blakespear. My smoke alarm just went off. I am outraged.
Carol, do you want us to go to another speaker first?
Do you mind? And then
I don't mind at all. We'll go to the next speaker. Chris Rogers. Chris, you can start when ready. You have 3 minutes.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. I have to follow the Smoke Alarm Act. Hi, my name is Chris Rogers. I live in Leucadia at the intersection of Andrew and Sheridan. The larger neighborhood being the northwest corner of Leucadia. First, thanks everyone for allowing me to speak tonight. and thank you for your time. The reason I'm speaking tonight during the open session is because I saw on the agenda there was an item, I think it's 8E, that talks about funding, additional funding for a Cardiff project, I think for Birmingham road improvements or something. And it just struck a chord with me. I don't have an opinion on that project per se, but I do have some comments I'd like to share about improvements or lack thereof to Leucadia versus what feels like the rest of Encinitas. Since moving here in 2012, I've seen very little in terms of improvements to traffic safety and beach access in this neighborhood. I've seen a few stop signs go up. I've seen the off and on grading along Vulcan to clear up the floods every time it rains. And I've seen a fresh coat of paint on La Costa to designate a bike lane. All good. But with that being said, in 9 years, I've also seen countless new projects and new housing and business projects approved in the area, including but not limited to 3 new hotels and a high density housing structure on the corner of La Costa and Vulcan. And there's, I believe, another one pending approval on La Costa as well. And I have no serious objections to any of these projects on their own, but collectively what they represent is a massive inflow of new pedestrian and traffic issues, which I think a few people have addressed tonight. I know we've been promised the Leucadia streetscape, and I was very excited about the upgrade we were going to see with our downtown. I'm still cautiously optimistic that this project will get done, but my concern is that I don't know how we're going to enjoy it if we can't even access it. We have no sidewalks, we have no railroad crossing. All we have is more and more people, more cars, and it spells nothing but disaster from a safety standpoint. The same goes for our beaches. And I've never felt safe walking my kids to Ponto. And I don't know how I'm going to feel safer with even more cars and more people coming to this area in the future. To put it simply, there's really no way to enjoy either the beaches or the eventual improvements to downtown that the streetscape will bring unless I get in my car and fight traffic with everyone else. And good luck finding a parking spot for either of those activities. With that being said, could you please stop allocating budget dollars to improvements in other places that have already been given a ton of love and have seen massive upgrades in the last 5 or 6 years, and more dollars, more allocation of the budget to the walking and biking people in this neighborhood in the northwest corner of Leucadia. I'm already part of a few neighborhood groups that have been formed to organize our thoughts and feelings on this, but I felt compelled to speak after seeing more budget potentially going towards areas that don't address the above issues first. Thank you again for your time.
Oh, thank you. Terry, if you can hear me, you need to unmute your microphone. There you go.
Oh, great. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Sorry about that earlier.
That's okay.
Okay, good evening. My name is Ann Skelly. I'm a mother of 3 adult sons living and working in the community with San Diego Alliance as a study buddy director, San Diego Alliance mentoring and tutoring program. Also, I am a member of the San Diego County Tobacco Control Coalition, and I want to share with you that American Lung recently issued the State of Tobacco Control for the cities and the counties in California. The report recognized Encinitas' work in creating ordinances for tobacco and marijuana smoke-free and vape-free beaches, parks, and outdoor dining. My family, thank you very much for that. It is a clear example of the city's interest in a clean air and protecting youth. However, the city's overall score was much lower than some San Diego cities because it has not done any policy work regarding tobacco and marijuana smoke and vape in multi-unit housing. This is definitely an equity issue since a large portion of financially challenged families and ethically diverse individuals live in multi-unit housing, and children disproportionately live in these apartments. Recently, Dr. Wooten, the county's health officer, sent letters to all of our cities recommending smoke-free and vape-free multi-unit housing policies in their housing element upgrades. Breathing air that is tobacco and marijuana smoke and vape-free is a right for all county residents. FYI, smoking and vaping is not a constitutional protected right, which many court cases have upheld. One way to move in that direction, as the city looks at increasing their affordable housing supply, is to make affordable housing complexes smoke and vape free. Just think if your children had to grapple with living in an environment with tobacco and marijuana, smoke and vape while they were eating, sleeping, playing, and studying. Not a healthy way we'd want for them. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And our final speaker under oral communications is Carol Heil. Carol, you can start when ready.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. My husband was cooking and our smoke alarm went off. Anyway, at the last council meeting, an agenda item dealt with the approval of funds for the Verity Crossing in Cardiff. It was mentioned that perhaps there was a competition between this crossing and a crossing in Leucadia. I can say that Leucadians don't view this as a competition. We see a Leucadia crossing as a much more dire and, quite frankly, immediate need than a crossing in Cardiff. The reasons are blatantly obvious. The proposed openings of developments that will result in hundreds of residences and hotel rooms, access to businesses on 101 and to the beach. These are the most obvious. Cardiff already has a crossing and, as importantly, a safe way for pedestrians to travel on San Elijo with the Coastal Rail Trail. Currently, Leucadia has none of that, and Leucadia doesn't even have a completed design to fund and get shovel ready for any federal grants that may be coming down the pike. A $100,000 reappropriation of funds to the already $900,000 Verity design is really hard for us to swallow when Leucadia doesn't have a concrete design for a crossing or even a pedestrian path to move around safely. Leucadia and Vulcan are still unsightly and are in far more need of a safe and legal infrastructure. In addition, last week, the Coast News and the Patch both revealed that new quiet trains will start running on the rail corridor this week. Both articles state that new education and ramped up violations for crossing the tracks are in our future. Punishing residents of Leucadia because the city has failed to address safe and legal measures to cross the tracks or even walk down Vulcan is an outrage. These two realities of our neglected infrastructure should have been dealt with long ago in the past and not be a still undecided design in the future. At this time, there isn't one safe avenue for any of us Leucadians to move around. Quite frankly, it's unconscionable. I believe it's the city planners and council's job to understand the needs of its city to keep its residents safe and to use their funds wisely. At the last city council meeting, Councilman Krantz asked for a more in-depth accounting of the design of the Verity crossing. That is an appropriate fiduciary response. The council's desire to finish a nearly $1 million design is understandable. But please ask yourselves, is a crossing at Verity needed more than a crossing in Leucadia? Can we reappropriate funds now to start a design in Leucadia? Or at least, can we get a crossing on Tier 1 for the upcoming CIP? This isn't a competition with Cardiff. They've been promised a crossing and they should get one. At this time, it just seems obvious that our needs far outweigh and are far more immediate than theirs. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Carol. I'm sorry, we do have one more speaker, Jeff Morris. Jeff, you can start when ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Council. I'm going to try to make this fast. I'm Jeff Morris. I'm part of Encinitas Watchdog, and I've been monitoring this entire fiasco with the homeless since it started on November 15th, 2019. I didn't really put anything together, but what I've watched is advertisements by some of these charities to bring in these homeless people and bring them in from all over. I've interviewed them, I spoke with them, and we've basically moved we had 3 years of declines in homeless from 2017, 2018, 2019. We almost had it eradicated until November 15th of 2019. At that point, advertising started going out, and that's when our town started filling up. And now it's just completely maxed out. I monitor crime, and it's, as you saw on the Sandag FBI crime report, it's out of control. And the second half is going to be even worse. We are part of the homeless industrial complex, and we kind of use this homeless word to gain sympathy, to describe these people and show compassion, but it's just a way to make people kind of feel bad. It's not real compassion because I'm the only person out there talking to these guys. I see them in the ditch, I see them in the parks. Makes me sick because I worked hard to get away from that life. I lived here in the mid-70s in a foster home, and as soon as I graduated from school, I moved right back. So I've been here for ages, and I love this town. I love everything about it, and I want to take care of it and protect it. I'm not a bad guy. Let's see. The idea of having Lassar come in, I thought that was kind of funny because we created this crisis. This didn't happen naturally. This was completely manufactured. So I can prove that all the way to the bone. And the 4 hotels that are filled up right now with homeless, do the residents know that? The Days Inn, the Quality Inn, the Econo Lodge, the Roadway. I was just over there. There was a dead and bloated body in one of the rooms in the Days Inn. So, you know, I love my town, and I'm trying to be respectful. I'm learning how to communicate with, the political people here. I'm not really political, but it just seems like I worked really hard to get away from that life, that poverty, the hood and all that stuff. And now it's chasing me here. And I don't think anybody really understands it like me. I'd be interested in helping out, but I got to be honest. I cannot tell lies. I have to be truthful. So if you really want some help, talk to me. But if it's this kind of stuff, I can't lie. So I have trouble with that. But I want to thank you for letting me talk. I want to apologize for being a little bit rough in the past. I've never spoken on these type of things before, but I love my town, and I'm going to keep defending my town all the way through. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to communicate. I'll tell you what's going on. I'm on the police scanner every day, all day long. All right. You have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. That does conclude speakers now, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the public speakers who took the time to call in tonight. Now we will go to our report from closed session.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the public and council, this is Leslie Devaney, City Attorney. We had a closed session today on item 1. It was conference with legal counsel on existing litigation, City of Encinitas versus California Department of Housing, and the council discussed this matter with special counsel, and there was no reportable action. Number 2, significant exposure to litigation for one item. The City Council discussed this legal matter with legal counsel, and there was no reportable action. Number 3 is existing litigation, Coastal Defender North County versus Encinitas. The council discussed this litigation with legal counsel, and there was no reportable action. Item 4, McPherson versus Encinitas. Again, the council discussed this case with their legal counsel, and there was no reportable action. Number 5, Surfers Point versus City of Encinitas. The City Council discussed litigation with legal counsel, no reportable action. And item 6, Davis versus Encinitas. Councilmember Hinsey recused herself as having a close relationship with the plaintiffs. The remaining City Council discussed this case with special counsel, and there was no reportable action. And that concludes my report out from closed session.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. And now we will go to any changes to the agenda.
No changes to the posted agenda. And moving to the consent calendar, we do have one speaker on item 8E.
Okay, I will entertain a motion on the balance.
So moved. Mosca.
Second.
Okay, we'll start voting. Councilmember Hinsey?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Crayons?
Yes.
Mayor Blakespear?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll now move to item 8E. And our speaker is Doug Waringa. Doug, would you like a staff report, or do you just want to make your comments?
I'll just make my comments.
Okay, you can start when ready.
Yeah, thank you again, everyone. Today, I reviewed a summary of completed and future city projects in the Cardiff neighborhood, including the Verde Rail Undercross, the award-winning San Elijo Corridor Master Plan concept, Cardiff's section of the Coastal Rail Trail along San Elijo, the Santa Fe Rail Underpass connecting 101 and the rail trail, the Santa Fe Drive's bike and pedestrian pathways and roundabouts, and then also the Birmingham Drive Streetscape project. Many of the completed projects address critical mobility, safety, infrastructure, similar to what we seek in Northwest Leucadia along Lacoste Avenue. Still, I was surprised to find out how many of these projects target beautification or optimization. As an example, the goal of the Birmingham Streetscape project, at least as I understand it, is to install improved continuous sidewalks, pavement overlays, and a roundabout. I contrast this to the Leucadia Streetscape, which is years behind schedule, and also West Lacoste Avenue, which has no roundabouts, no sidewalks or bollards to protect pedestrians and bikes, and a too high of a speed limit at 35 miles an hour. The stark contrast made me wonder if we all live in the same city. Can the mayor and city council please prioritize bringing all the neighborhoods of the city up to a similar safety and mobility standard before beautifying, optimizing, and especially replacing existing but functional infrastructure? Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And that does conclude speakers on this item, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And thank you to staff for bringing the report on this issue related to Verde. The clarification is, I think, very important. And again, I appreciate the efforts to get that done. As a result of our little skirmish last meeting, I did go back and review the staff report from February of 2020, and in fact watched the video, excuse me, of the public comments on the plussing up of the Verde project and their new contract and the things that we were doing back in 2020. And in fact, I made the motion that we approve the item back in February of 2020. And I will do so again tonight, because I do think it's very important that we at least get these projects to 100% design if we've made the investment in them to begin with. So we're looking at more than $1 million spent. And as I said back in February of 2020, it's just not good. Doesn't make any fiscal sense to just stop and not have this project ready. I will, as I did then, remind people that the reason that the Verde crossing got on the drawing board before North Leucadia has to do with the coastal rail trail and the fence that they have in Cardiff. So that's how we ended up where we are. All that said, I certainly am very aware of the deficiencies in the infrastructure in our city. It's working with the built environment that we inherited has been a challenge. The resources to get all the projects designed and certainly completed has been quite the challenge. As was mentioned, we have Streetscape that's been on the drawing board for almost 15 years, and we're just now starting phase 1 construction of that. We are getting another crossing, so we're spending money, I think, wisely. We're working to get grants as much as we can, and I think that we have also budgeted money for preliminary design to see what the possibilities of an undercrossing in North Leucadia are. And I am also continuing to explore at-grade crossings in North Leucadia. So it isn't like we're not aware, and we are doing everything that we can. But all that said, again, I think that it would be kind of foolish to not finish this Verde project to 100% design ready for possible grants. So I would move approval of this item.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion, and Councilmember Mosca.
So I'll second Deputy Mayor Kranz's motion on 8E. I just also want to say that, just to add my voice in here, to say that definitely, I mean, I hear, every meeting we have folks coming together from the Northwest and delivering comments to us. And I think that's good. I think it's good that folks in the Northwest are organizing and collectively speaking to us about the needs of the Northwest portion of our city. And I, as somebody that believes in the circulation and mobility of our entire city, recognizes and sensitive to the needs in the Northwest and want to make sure that we're prioritizing projects for the Northwest. And so I think that we want to make sure that we're looking at this as a complete city, as a whole city, and not necessarily, thinking that, if one person gets a piece of the pie, that means that there's less of the pie for me. I see us as one city, and I'm looking at circulation for the entire city. I'm looking at what makes sense in terms of mobility, moving the dial on mobility for the entire city. And I absolutely recognize that the Northwest, with the development that's coming in and with the antiquated and old infrastructure or lack of infrastructure, stormwater, drains, all of that is an issue that we need to focus on. I think it's also an opportunity here that a lot of folks in the Northwest are organizing. And I think that if we've not met with a lot of the groups that are coming together to advocate for the Northwest, I'd say as a city, we should be doing that. And I'd be willing to, with a deputy mayor, with council member, say Kelly Shea-Hinsey, or with a mayor, whomever, to sit down with folks in the Northwest to listen more about what the needs are, and also to make sure we're on the same page in terms of the investments that we're making in the Northwest. As Deputy Mayor Kranz was saying, a lot of stuff has just taken a long time, but there are a lot of projects that are coming your way that are being funded and that are queued up. And so I want to make sure that we're getting all that information to you about what we're doing, what the needs are, and how we can plan for the future to make sure that we're covering those needs. And so I'm open to meeting on behalf of the city, open to meeting with any of the groups, and I want to continue to make sure that we're looking at the entire city of how we can solve the mobility issue, but we're also being attentive to the needs of every neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. So that was a motion and a second, and so let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Hensy,
Yes.
Councilmember Moscow,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kranz,
Yes.
and Mayor Blakespear.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll now move to item 10A. And this item is to hear from the applicants for the Commission for the Arts, Environmental Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, Planning Commission, Senior Citizen Commission, and Traffic and Public Safety Commission. This is part of our annual recruitment for those terms that are expiring March of this year. So if you would like, we'll just get started with letting each of our applicants speak. They all will have 2 minutes. And for the applicants, we will move you to a panelist, so you'll be able to share a video if you would like to. All right, so we'll go to Commission for the Arts. The council tonight will be considering 3 scheduled vacancies with new appointment terms ending March 2024. We do have 3 incumbents, and those 3 incumbents all did reapply. So our first applicant is Irene Abraham. Irene, you have 2 minutes and you can start when you are ready.
Okay, I'd be happy to put on video, but I don't see how to do that.
Should have a little thing that says start video.
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, great. Good evening, Mayor Blakespear and council members. My name is Irene Abraham, and I'm a strong believer in the importance of the arts in our community, especially in these trying times. I'd like to continue for another term on the Commission for the Arts of Encinitas. As the current chair of the commission and member, I've participated in evaluating and organizing projects for public art, including the design of the Cardiff retaining wall, the mosaic project for the Santa Fe I-5 undercrossing, the proposed public art project for the Encinitas I-5 intersection, and participated in writing a new master plan for the arts in Encinitas, as well as jurying art proposals and other projects. I've also represented the commission as a board member on the Encinitas Friends of the Arts. A bit about my diverse background for those that don't remember. After receiving my PhD at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in biology, and postdoctoral studies at Yale, I worked for many years as a research biologist and teacher at the universities, NIH, and in industry. After my retirement, I went back to school to study art and received an MFA in visual art, and am now an active practitioner. I have also interest in both visual and performing arts. For 3 years, I was on the board of the Contemporary Art Committee of the San Diego Museum of Art. And I'm also a member of the North Coast Strings Orchestra. I hope that my experience and wide background will continue to be valuable to the Commission as it promotes an exciting future of enhanced arts, programming, and facilities in Encinitas. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Our next applicant is Kathleen Lees. Kathleen, you can start when you are ready. Kathleen, can you unmute your microphone? There you go.
It's not giving, oh, there it is. Okay.
There you go.
That's the video. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I would most sincerely appreciate the opportunity to serve another 3 years on the Arts Commission. Each commission stands on the shoulders of the previous commissioners. I have participated in the culmination of Arts Night, the Santa Fe Bridge installation, the selection of the art and artist for Encinitas Boulevard, and the installation of Orpheus, the first piece of our new public art program. Over the last year, we have all learned how to think outside the box. Excuse me. And that's going to come in handy as we are able to start coming together again. As we prepare to reopen, I'm excited to find ways to implement some of those new tools as we design our marketing and education outreach. I have always supported Pacific View as a community center. As a volunteer, I have pulled lots of weeds, dug holes, washed windows, painted walls, and swept sidewalks. Pacific View is a treasure, and I look forward to being part of this new and positive direction. Excuse me. Encinitas has a vibrant arts community, and this past year has proven how flexible and determined they are to participate. These people are smart and creative, and having a center they can plan around will only expand its possibilities. The public art program has been in the works for the 3 years I've been on the commission. The pouring of pedestals in each of our 5 communities started last week, and I'm looking forward to implementing it over the next year. We are in the process of, is that my end?
Yeah, you just have a couple more words you can finish.
Well, the master plan, updating that is important. And as a board member of Leucadia Encinitas Town Council, I've been advocating for road crossings for over 20 years, over, under, I don't care, but they are all going to have public art, and I want to be a part of making that a reality. So thank you very much for considering my application.
Thank you, Kathleen. Our next applicant is Diane Mandel. Diane, you can start when ready. And you do have 2 minutes. Just need to unmute your microphone.
Unmute.
There you go.
Start my video. Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Diane Mandel, and I'm very appreciative of being able to speak this evening. I've been living in Leucadia since 2000. My passion and background is working with diversifying artistic communities, and that is also what I have done a lot of in the past. I would love to share my gifts in Encinitas because I now have the time to do that. A little bit about my background. I have a professional background in theater and dance, a BA in arts management from UMass Amherst, where I worked in the fine arts department as an administrator and a theater director. I organized the Black Musicians Conference there and the Summer Bright Moments festivals, where we brought in concerts from musicians from all over the world. And I produced and hosted a French language radio program for NPR. I was the first full-time Amherst Chamber of Commerce director. And what that has helped me do is understand that grant writing and business and arts are all, in order to make something successful, you really have to know both sides of the project, not just have wonderful creative ideas, but be able to figure out how to get those ideas manifested. One of the things that I would love to see in this community is more of an integration of the surf, art, agricultural, and spiritual communities. And it is one of my gifts to be able to do a lot of outreach to community members and to engage community members, that is students and children and families, to do and to participate in different artistic endeavors. Since I've been here, I am working, some of you might have seen me, I'm a Tibetan bowl sound healing practitioner offering concerts and workshops internationally. I would love to offer my services to this wonderful town, and I'm deeply grateful for having a little bit of time this evening to present myself.
Thank you so much. Our next applicant for the arts is Randall Sims. Randall, you can start when ready. You do have 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Greetings, Mayor Blakespear, esteemed council members Kranz and Mosca. It's good to see you appearing well during this pandemic. Esteemed council member Hinsey, I've not yet had the chance to meet you in person, but allow me to introduce myself. My name is Randall Sims. I've been a commissioner for the arts in our beautiful city for the past 3 years. I was appointed to this commission due to my extensive career in the recording arts, producing music that has been featured all over radio, television, and film. I believe my tenure over the last 3 years on the commission has been productive. I believe our current commissioners work well together, and our commitments are strong. Our commission's big project has been the facilitation of the art displays under the Santa Fe and Encinitas underpasses. The Santa Fe underpass has been completed with art that we picked by local artists and school students, and the results are astoundingly beautiful. This project has already received recognition all over San Diego County. The Encinitas underpass as well, which will feature the work of a professional artist, is close to a completion, and it's worth noting that our commission picked the same piece of proposed art that was chosen by a survey of Encinitas citizens, which I believe shows our efforts are in line with public approval, and that's always gratifying. Furthermore, our commission has undertaken the task of rewriting and updating the Encinitas Arts Master Plan in order to create a document that is relevant in the 21st century, spearheaded by Commissioner Redlitz, Abraham, and Corrales-Smith. I've been a fervent supporter of this task since Commissioner Redlitz proposed the rewrite in 2019. The current commission, has also achieved fantastic results in its work with the Encinitas Friends of the Arts. In my role as a member of the board of directors, I've been actively involved in a pipeline of amazing events that supplied arts and culture to the city of Encinitas, from the inception of Arts Night, Encinitas Arts Night, to the Passport series of events. We've been groundbreakers in Southern California by being one of the first MPOs with Passport to Encinitas to move their events to a virtual realm online, and many other organizations in surrounding cities have followed our lead. I think I'm deserved of another 3-year appointment to the commission, but having said that, I'd like to simply thank you for appointing me for the last 3 years. It has literally been one of the most fruitful and enjoyable of my life. I've met so many amazing people, been happy to contribute to a city that I hold very deep to my heart. I always remember at one of the city council meetings, our great mayor said there's a difference between being a resident and a citizen of a municipality. And Encinitas is such a special place, and it fills me with joy to be able to contribute as a citizen rather than just a resident who lives here. So thank you for that. Sorry about that, and have a great evening. I look
Thank you,
forward
Randall.
to possibly another 3 years. Thank you.
And then our final applicant for the arts is Katie Zoratek. Katie, you can start when ready. You need to unmute your microphone. There you go.
All right. Hi, everybody. I want to introduce myself. My name is Katie Zoratek. I'm going to start with my qualifications. I have a bachelor's of art education and visual culture and a K-12 teaching license in visual arts. Although I'm not teaching currently, I've had the experience of working in an education department of a city art museum and teaching in a museum of science and industry. I'm currently in school for interior design and working in Cardiff. I've lived in Encinitas for 8 years. And on my application, I did include a bunch of fun, different ideas, including working with the Environmental Commission, an art walk to support the retail and restaurants on the 101, and an interest in re-interest in the existing art that's already here. I have a lot of other fun ideas, but my main interest is that I just believe that art is for everybody, and I'm most interested in creating accessible, generative community resources for Encinitas in the arts. And so mainly that's like Pacific View and having affordable studios, resources and venues for art and music for the community. So that's it.
Great, thank you so much. All right, we will now move to applicants for the Environmental Commission.
So City Clerk, I'd like to just propose to save our applicants time and they don't have to sit through the whole thing. I would just like to recognize the applicants who applied for the Commission for the Arts, especially Diane and Katie, who are two new ones. I think both of you would be really great additions to this commission, and I would like to encourage you to apply again when it comes around. These things do periodically open up, and we have off-cycle appointments. And I'm going to make the recommendation to my colleagues that we reappoint the 3 incumbents who have done a really great job and been highly engaged on this topic in their first term. We do have term limits for commissions, so people end up cycling off. So that would be, my motion would be for Irene Abraham, Kathleen Lees, and Randall Sims. And also just want to thank them for their great work in the first term. Our Arts Commission is very active, and it's a really critical part of who we are as a city, our arts community. So I'm really pleased with all the work that we see out of our arts commissioners. So that would be my recommendation.
I'll second that motion, and I would just add, Madam Mayor, that I was the one that when I was deputy mayor and you weren't able to attend one meeting, I was able to appoint Kathleen Lees and Randall Sims for the first time. So I take credit for that they did a great job the first term, and they're now back for a second term. And so I'd love to second your motion to make sure that they're back there. And Irene, thank you for chairing the Arts Commission, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Start voting. Councilmember Hensy?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Krans?
Yes.
And Mayor Blakespear?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Let me just move on here. Now we'll move to the Environmental Commission. There are 5 scheduled vacancies on the Environmental Commission. 2 of the commissioners are termed out. 3 of the commissioners are reapplying. And we had 12 applicants. 1 has withdrawn. So we actually have 11 applicants. And the first one is Christian Adams, but I do not see him on the line. So go to Inga Biskiner. Inga, you can start when ready.
And I can also start a video. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and having the honor to reapply for a second term on the Environmental Commission. As I think all of you know, I'm a longtime resident in the area, 35 years in Encinitas. And having spent the last 4 years on the commission, I've really enjoyed the work. I find it very fulfilling and consequential. We've done important things on the council or on the commission, and I'd like to continue doing it because, as we all know, looking out for our environment has got to be a top priority because people are dependent on it, and so is the environment itself. So I thought I would just share a few things that I've been working on over the last 4 years for your consideration. One of them, since I have a background in water and agriculture from my career, and I have degrees in agriculture and in Bachelor of Science and also an MBA in business management. But in my ag and water career, I thought that working on better managing our city's water would be a good thing to work on. So I immediately joined that subcommittee, and I recruited a local Encinitas resident business owner who's nationally known for this topic to speak, and then learned that with the city, often the parks are the low-hanging fruit. And so I reached out to the Parks and Rec Department, and we identified some initiatives to work on to better manage our water in the city. Secondly, I worked on a sea level rise subcommittee that helped organize a workshop on what I call a slowly moving emergency. There are no easy answers on this topic, but we need to get prepared. I've also worked on the community grant program for the last 2 years, and also the environmental awards program, managing that with Commissioner Christian Adams. I would really like to continue working on the commission. We've identified some new initiatives on our work plan, including environmental justice. I applaud the commission or the council for approving our latest recommendation to declare a climate emergency.
Ingy, I'm sorry, but your 2 minutes is up and we need to be fair to everyone. So
very good.
We appreciate
it. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Next applicant is Katie Kramer. Katie, you can start when ready, and you do have 2 minutes.
Hi there. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for considering my application for the Environmental Commission. I'm a marine biologist with experience in environmental policy management and conservation. I'm a professor of marine conservation at Arizona State University and an ocean science fellow at Conservation International. Fortunately, I work remotely, so I get to live in Encinitas full time, and Encinitas has been my family's home for the past 8 years. I've been a nature lover and an environmental advocate since childhood, and I became a marine biologist to promote the sustainable use of the oceans. I received my bachelor's in ecology from UC San Diego, and my master's in marine biology, and then my PhD in oceanography from Scripps Institution of Oceanography. So I work at the Science Policy Interface, conducting research on conservation solutions for coral reefs and fisheries. I have experience within the environmental policy and governance arenas. I've worked as a scientist within the federal government, at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and at the Smithsonian Institution, and I worked as a marine policy fellow in the US Senate. So I'm excited at the prospect of applying my experience in environmental science and policy to the sustainable management of our local environment here in Encinitas. Our city's innovative environmental policies make Encinitas an ideal place for making meaningful progress in this area. And as a member of the Environmental Commission, I'd be interested in focusing on 3 particular areas of progress. One would be implementing strategies to achieve the carbon emission reduction goals that we've laid out in our really great and ambitious climate action plan. 2, reducing coastal pollution and waste generation by curbing single-use plastics, improving watershed management, increasing local recycling and composting capacity. 3, directly engaging with the local community to raise environmental awareness and reduce environmentally damaging activities. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thank you. Our next applicant is Gregory Harris. Greg, you can start when you're ready.
Great, thank you, everybody. Actually, what I'm going to tell you up front is I think that some of the other applicants that I've seen and that I know, including William Morrison, are so much more qualified for this commission that I'm going to withdraw my application. But I do want to say hello to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Next applicant is June Hansberger.
Hi, I'm trying. Okay, I think I've got it going here. Good evening, Mayor Blake Spear and City Council members. My name is June Hansberger, and it has been a pleasure to serve on the Environmental Commission for the past year. I am looking forward to continuing to work on a few key projects involving plastic use and microplastics in our ocean that are on the approved work plan for the 2021 year. I have enjoyed working and learning from my fellow commissioners, and I hope to continue serving on the commission for another term. A little bit about me. I'm a 30-year resident of Leucadia, and I have been teaching high school science at our local school district, both schools, La Costa Canyon and SDA, since 1998. And I am really fortunate to work with passionate students who are concerned about the environment and the climate crisis. Over the past 5 years, these students have worked to come up with solutions that they can implement now to make a difference for our environment. The students at LCC have created a native plant garden, and they have been working on an urban forest for our campus. To date, they have planted 121 trees, and they are hoping to get another 20 planted this year when we hopefully finally return to school. I am privileged to work with these dedicated students on environmental issues, and I look forward to the opportunity to continue working with my fellow commissioners for the city of Encinitas. Thank you so much for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you, June. Our next applicant is Karen Yee. Karen, you can start when ready. You have 2 minutes. Karen, you need to unmute. There you go.
Okay, and then for video, okay, here we go. All righty. Hello, my name is Karen Meeker Yee, and I would like to serve on the city's Environmental Commission. I've been a resident of Encinitas for 34 years. Currently, 4 generations of my family are living in the city. So I am committed to honoring the city's environment and ensuring it has a healthy future. I'm a teacher and former journalist. I bring the skills of educating, planning, implementing programs and policies, writing, researching, and creating media campaigns. I have a high interest in science and a deep love for the environment. I've written 2 successful school district science grants, and I'm a fellow of the California Science Teachers Project, the California Science Implementation Network, and the Linguistic Acquisition and Science Education at Rural Schools think tank. I'm a skilled communicator and have won numerous community television awards as well as film festival awards. I'm confident that I can thoughtfully contribute to public hearings and provide sound recommendations to the City Council. I'll work diligently with fellow commissioners to develop and implement the Commission's annual work plan, Some areas of the plan that are of high interest to me are evaluating and monitoring environmental impacts of planning documents, developing recommendations for renewable energy investments, and developing policies and plans for community environmental awareness. I'm excited about things the city has already gotten underway, including the annual environmental awards program and the Cyclovia Day, and would like to go ahead and enhance those efforts further. Thank you for your consideration, and it would be an honor to serve the city I love.
Thank you, Karen. Our next applicant is William Morrison. William, you can start when you're ready.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm glad I was able to make it after hanging out with the Pacific Beach Planning Group a little earlier today and having them select our Sea Life mural for Pacific Beach. You guys mostly know me and my work with the city, and I've been thankful to be appointed to previous committees and commissions. But I believe my background is currently strongest for the Environmental Commission. I did apply that first time it was created, and you had some amazing applicants and scientists and lawyers, and I was pretty happy to not be appointed at that point in time because that group was strong and you have a really strong work plan from their efforts. My background is through policy as one of the original Surfrider Rise Against Plastics Ocean Friendly Restaurant campaign, which is probably the same time Jim Wang was running with you guys to do the no plastics. So we got a couple of the restaurants in Encinitas to sign up for ocean friendly restaurants right before they got the requirement from the city. Ocean Friendly Gardens Initiative to get petrochemicals out of the waterways, as well as stormwater. I'm a licensed landscape architect. I have a background in urban regional planning. I currently work in real world aspects of the planning and construction for a multifamily developer, working on environmental impact reports as well as building plans. So I really have a good hands-on experience on that. A part of the work plan I would really like to focus on the climate action plan, my skill set as a landscape architect for the integrated pest management, as well as irrigation practices, as well as vegetation management. But I believe my current experience and work is really gonna allow me to focus on the environmental nexus between planning documents and what is coming down from the state and what we could do better here. Zero waste is another thing. One of my projects is requiring to have 3 different waste streams, which is coming interesting to architects because they're not prepared. And back to plastic pollution. We're doing a great job. I'm sure there's more that could be done, but I'm really happy to be in a city that is such a bellwether of a great place with plastic pollution. So thank you.
Thank you. The next applicant is Carol Parker.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. So thank you, Mayor Blakespear and the City Council members. I'm Carol Parker, and I'm very interested in being on the Environmental Commission. I believe I'm qualified through my education, my volunteer positions, my life experience, and my passion for the environment. Just a little on my background. I'm a 16-year resident of Encinitas. I have a PhD in biology from UCLA, and I previously worked in biotech. But more importantly, my most relevant volunteer positions include that I was PTA president at Pollock East Central for a couple of years. I was also a volunteer naturalist at the City of Boulder Open Space and Mountain Parks. And I am now Natural Resources Director for the League of Women Voters, North County, San Diego. Additionally, I have served on the city's UFAC committee for 3 years now. I have seen some of the good work of the UFAC committee and the city with the street trees and the parks, and I think the parks are amazing. Through the UFAC and Arbor Days, I have seen a little of how the city works and the pace of some of the changes. I am very concerned with climate change, and I would like to do as much as I can to help fight it. I have seen the City of Encinitas' climate action plan, and I'm pretty happy with it. If anything, I would advocate for more ambitious goals. I think in general, people try to meet goals if they are stated. And I've also seen where solutions come to meet ambitious goals. I mean, who among us would have believed in 2016 that we would be on target this year, I believe, for the 75% reduction in organic waste going to the landfill, that goal set by the state. You know, this is because of the EDCO's anaerobic digester that will be coming online soon. Lastly, I believe it would be fun to be on the Environmental Commission because I'm very interested in environmental policy, and also it appears that the city really values this commission's work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next applicant, Christina Simicat. Christina, you can start when you're ready.
Hello there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you for reviewing my application, and I'm happy to reapply. I was previously on the Environmental Commission and the Traffic and Public and Safety Commissions in the past few years. I'm from North County, San Diego, and I've been living in Village Park area of Encinitas for the past 20 years with my husband and daughter. And I teach at Cal State San Marcos. My background is in environmental studies and land use and public policy mediation. Currently, I'm teaching environmental studies and biology and wildfire science. I reapplied, especially because I'm very excited about the addition of the environmental justice and equity part of the work plan. That's an area that I deal with a lot with my students who are primarily students of color. We have a great amount of diversity in our program, and I'd love to see that kind of diversity out in the profession more as well. However, I think Encinitas has actually taken some really great steps environmentally over the last few years, and most of all, I'd like to do what I can to help support the work plan of the commission and to support the goals of the CAP. That's about it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next applicant is Robert Switzler.
All right, good evening. My name is Robert Switzler. I'm going to spend a couple minutes talking about who I am, why I'm interested in being on the Environmental Commission, and what I have to offer. So I've been a resident of Encinitas for over 25 years. I've been coming here since the 80s because my wife grew up here. And so I had the opportunity to come down here and visit the city, and I've always loved and appreciated the city. I grew up in LA, so I know what a concrete overbuilt jungle is like, and makes me really appreciate the environment and the beauty of this city, and want to be a participant in trying to protect it. I run and bike, so I've been on every path and trail in the entire city at one time or another, and really appreciate the efforts that the prior commissions have done to get those things established, and want to continue with those goals. I was reading through the City Council policy objectives for the environment, and one thing that stuck out to me was a statement that our social well-being is supported by a strong economy, but sustained by a healthy environment. And the massive growth that's happened in the city had to be managed. The growth in residents and in tourists while protecting the environment. Then the thing is, we all love living here because we have been able to protect the environment and prevent it from being overbuilt or impacted by that huge amount of growth. I was a scoutmaster for 15 years with Troop 776 in St. John's, And one of the things we taught was a policy of enjoying the environment but leaving no trace. And I think that's the type of thing that we also are implementing, enjoying the environment without hurting it. And things that we've been doing are like hardened trails and fencing to keep people in their area and not hurting the environment. So I want to be a part of a committee to help continue that effort. What I have to offer, I have a strong desire to protect the environment. I have a common sense approach, and I realize that protecting the environment will grow the economy. My skill set, I have a BSME and an MBA, so I have a strong background in problem solving. I'm a program director at Collins Aerospace, so I lead teams in solving problems. I get things done, and I can work to a schedule and a budget. And when we go to solve problems, we look for the root cause and solve those and not the symptoms. So I think I could really offer some balance to the commission as far as helping to drive closure on actions and identify issues and get things solved. I read through the annual work plan, the 20.
So that is your 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay, great. Anyway, so in summary, I just want to help to develop policies and procedures that will protect the environment of the city. That's my goal. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Derek Wyback is unable to attend. And then I see that Christian Adams has joined. So Christian, you're next.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I'm late. I was making dinner for the family. Yeah, it's been an honor to be on the Environmental Commission. I feel like Encinitas is one of the leaders in the environment, and we have a really strong city council that supports us with a lot of these initiatives. I've been working on with Commissioner Bisconer on the Environmental Awards program, which I think has been very successful. I've also been working on a divestment resolution. We're pretty good in Encinitas, but there are some things we could do a little bit better. So I've been working on that for a while. So hopefully that'll be on come across the city council in the next couple months. We just missed it getting on the agenda this week. So it's a real honor to, and I think most of you know, I've been in the solar industry for about 15 years now. So it's a real honor to be part of the Environmental Commission because especially with such a strong and supportive city council, we can really drive at a lot of these initiatives that a lot of other cities in the county and the state and the country follow. So thank you.
Thank you, Christian. That does conclude all the applicants for the Environmental Commission, and the council will be making 5 appointments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the excellent applicants. We always have just really such deep talent when it comes to the Environmental Commission. I wanted to see if my council colleagues wanted to make any comments about any of the applicants. Yes, Councilmember Hinsey.
I was really happy to see Katie Kramer return to apply for the Environmental Commission because she applied the last time that we had the opportunity to appoint. And she's always really impressed me at her specific skill set that I think really matches well with the needs that we have in the city of Encinitas. So I would like to see Katie Kramer sitting up there.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Krantz.
Support the 3 returning for reappointment, and then Katie Kramer is very impressive. I would like to see William Morrison appointed. I think his understanding of our community through all of the work that he's done in various volunteer assignments, including on our urban forest committee, I think is a great way to continue to take advantage of his knowledge of the community and his landscaping architecture skills.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mosca.
Yeah, this year's group of applicants for Environmental Commission have not disappointed. This commission seems to really field a lot of very intelligent, successful, and educated folks for this commission. So I would reappoint Christian Adams and Ingy and June just because they've done a good job, and I think that they should be reappointed. I agree with my colleagues that Katie Kramer is impressive, and I'd like to see her sitting up there. And for that last spot, while I really like Carol Parker, and I think she has a great great resume and just not only what she's done in our community, but what she's done all over the place. I have to agree with Deputy Mayor Kranz that I'd like to see William Morrison sitting up there, because I think he's well qualified and really up to date on a lot of the things that we're doing. And I think that he would really complement the group that's there now.
Okay, great. Well, then I'm going to, well, first I want to recognize that, yeah, Carol and William have been doing a great job on the UFAC, which is the Urban Forest Advisory Committee. And I want to thank them for that, for their involvement on that committee, and also to Christina Simicott, who's been on both committees, both environment and traffic before. I will make a recommendation, or I will move that we appoint the 3 incumbents, Christian Adams, Inge Biskiner, and June Hansberger, and then also Katie Kramer and William Morrison.
I'll second that. If that was a motion, I'll second.
That was a motion, yeah.
Okay, we can start going. Councilmember Hensy? Councilmember Mosca?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kranz?
Yes.
Mayor Blakespear?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. And then now we will move to the Parks and Recreation Commission. There are 3 scheduled vacancies. All 3 incumbents are termed out. We do have 9 applicants. The first applicant is Michael George. Let's see if he's on. Michael. Yes, Michael, you can start when ready. You have 2 minutes.
Unmute, start video.
There you go.
Okay, can you see me?
Yes, we
okay, don't want to scare anybody, but okay, my name is Michael George. And listening to the other people, applicants, I feel kind of like a neophyte here. But I'll tell you what I am. I'm willing to serve. I'm willing to learn, listen to other people. I'll listen to people on the commission that I serve on. I'll listen to their ideas. I'll bring forth ideas that I have if I have them. I work cooperatively with people to come to solutions or to agreement, at least on proposals. And I think that that's the spirit of cooperation that you need in this kind of work. As to my background, I'm a veteran of 50 years of teaching, so that'll give you an idea about how old I am. I've been doing a lot of service work since I retired, and for example, I've been on the Skyloft Homeowner Association since 2001. And I've been the treasurer since then on that body, and that's a service position to a small community of 98 homes. I'm presently the president of the Encinitas Bocce Club, and we have bocce courts at the Oakcrest Park, as you're aware of, and that I've been the president, but I've also been the treasurer of that organization since 2014. And the way I work basically is I think we work in cooperation. We get things done when we cooperate with one another, when we have mutually accepted goals that we're working on or projects that we've determined. And I understand that this is an advisory position. I don't know how much initiative that requires, whether we're just helping hand or are we initiating?
George, I'm sorry to interrupt. That is your 2 minutes.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much for paying attention to me. Thank you.
Our next applicant is Brad Hansen.
Hey, I should be unmuted at this point.
We can hear you.
Great. Hi, everybody. I think you all know me, and I think there's a reason you know me. I absolutely love the community of Encinitas, and I want to give back to the community of Encinitas. You all know me because of all the volunteer time I have spent over the years, primarily through the three Encinitas downtown, Encinitas, Cardiff, and Leucadia downtown Main Street Beach, not beach, but Main Street associations. I've applied for one of the 3 seats opening for the Parks and Recreation Commission, just to commit to giving back to the community I love. I'm also applying as a result of the concern over the expiration of some valued experience occurring in the near future and my desire to replace this loss of talent seamlessly. I consider myself a strong candidate to replace our outgoing commissioners. First, as a resident of North Coastal San Diego since '84, I've volunteered for years for a lot of community events, as I've mentioned, and also a lot of other events. Second, my experience from 2017 through 2019, I participated firsthand in the co-production of 6 of the most well-attended Encinitas public recreational events through these years. As a board member of the Surfing Madonna Beach Foundation, I was instrumental in producing and presenting the Surfing Madonna Beach Run and the Encinitas Half Marathon in each of these years. To date, the 2017 Beach Run remains the Guinness World Book largest record run on sand. In early 2020, I separated from the principals that formerly produced these events. This separation inspired my interest to join this commission. I'm also really interested in rolling out post-pandemic activities as soon as practical. Thank you, and I hope you will consider my experience and how my experience will help to benefit our beautiful, fantastic Parks and Recreation Department.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Next applicant is David Hinkle, but I do not see him on the line. So our next applicant is Lewis Jackson. There you go.
There we go. Good evening, council members. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you. After living all over the United States, my wife and I moved our young family to Liebenheim in about 1994, excuse me, and due in large part to a lifestyle choice. Encinitas is blessed with such an abundance of natural recreational opportunities. And on top of that natural abundance, Encinitas has made a priority of parks and recreation opportunities of all kinds. So my goal in applying to participate with Parks and Recreation Commission is to assist in the ongoing efforts to improve access and expand opportunities. Although I'm sure it's kind of hard to tell, my college days were a short 42 years ago. I have an undergraduate degree in natural resource planning, where the focus was placed on park planning. My graduate work was in urban design and city planning, and I started my professional career with a planning department in Sea Ranch in the Northern California coast. Around 1980, I was introduced to a group of people that had a restaurant concept called the Chart House, and we spent quite a few years developing one-of-a-kind coastal properties and historic preservation projects from Hawaii to the Caribbean. I then went on to help with other companies nationally and internationally. I understand the need for thoughtful planning. I know the value and power of design to attract, expand, and enhance experiences. Having managed real estate in every part of the country, I understand the needs of stewardship and the investments needed for ongoing maintenance. And all those skills and experiences can help support the city and the city staff. As I said, we moved to Encinitas as a lifestyle choice. The promises of that lifestyle have never failed us. My goal is to offer my time, my energy, my experience, and my perspective, contributing to the city's long-term success and keeping the Encinitas the special place that it is. I also recognize that the partnerships between the city and our neighbors in San Diego County and the state of California will be required and demand engagement. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I also had applied for a position on the Traffic Commission and Safety Commission, and I'd be honored to serve on either, but certainly my preference would be Parks and Recreation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next applicant is Stefan Lacoste. There you go.
Hey, there we go. Good evening. You hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hey, my name is Stephen Lacasse. I've been living in Encinitas for over 20 years. I have a company based in Encinitas for over 15 years. I've enjoyed Encinitas Park and Rec facilities for the whole time I've been here, from way back playing softball in the field for 15 years until COVID hit. That league kind of canceled, obviously, and then part of the original kickball and dodgeball league back when it came around probably 15 years ago as well. In the meantime, I've also raised twin 13-year-old boys and a 17-year-old daughter who are highly involved in sports. So I've coached and managed every sport we have to offer, as well as take advantage of all the rec facilities and programs the city has to offer. The question is why I want to be on a rec commission, Park Rec Commission. There's a story back in 2008, 2009, during recession. The company wasn't doing much. So with twin boys that are 1 year old, I had to find a way to occupy them. I was Mr. Mom, stay-home dad. It was awesome. But as you know, taking care of two twins is a handful. So I had to search out and find parks and trails and other activities to do. And it was super easy in Encinitas. So that was eye-opening. We were very lucky to have that services. And now as they get older, I have more time. Company's doing good. I have free time. I'm currently on the board of directors of Carter Soccer League, which I'm in charge of the field allocations and scheduling. So I'm still highly involved in the rec side of youth sports, which I think is very important for our community, but also access to other facilities as far as programs, and also evolution of COVID has been the daily 3 to 5 mile walks my wife and I have on all our various trails and park areas. So I've been able to enjoy that and appreciate that. I think it's a good opportunity for me to use my experience that I have with a lot of work in the city, so I understand how it works and what has to get done, and I think how to do it and work with people with the guidelines. So I'd love to take this position if it's available offered to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next applicant is Maureen. Maureen, your last name, I'm sorry, is it Luschwitz? Lukowitz? Maureen, just, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for giving me this opportunity for the interview with the Parks and Recreation Commission. As the only woman applying for this position, I bring a different skill set to this commission. I've lived and worked and raised my 2 children in Encinitas for the last 30 years and have been local here for the last 30 years. I started my work experience over 30 years ago when I worked at the Ecke YMCA, and I was a camp counselor, and I would ride my bike from Solana Beach down PCH to my job at the Y. So started my work experience there, and I've coached soccer through the YMCA and the AYSO in Encinitas, and my kids have been active in the rec program in Encinitas and have enjoyed being part of that program. Also, my husband and I have been active with the Encinitas Boys and Girls Club, and my husband was the chairperson of the National Junior Basketball League in Encinitas, and our family has utilized the rec center over the decades, and I know what an asset it is to our wonderful community. I volunteered in our community as a Girl Scout leader, coach, PTA member, and I would like the opportunity to give back to my community by being on the Parks and Recreation Commission. I currently work with the senior population in hospice and palliative care. And I also worked with the home care industry, but my passion is with the youth and with the seniors. I love working with those 2 groups of people, and I'd love to give back to my community in this capacity. Finally, I love to paddleboard and I enjoy the ocean. I love to spend time on the beach, and there's no better place that you can enjoy these recreational activities but on our beach, our wonderful beach town that we have to offer to our community members. So thank you very much for this opportunity and for your consideration.
Thank you, Maureen. Our next applicant is Ross Ritter.
Hi there. I'm Ross Ritter, and I appreciate your time considering me for the Parks and Rec Commission. I'm impressed with the number and quality of candidates that have submitted applications for the positions, and I imagine it will be tough to decide on just 3. I've lived here in Cardiff for 21 years and for 5 years in Encinitas before that, and I really wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I frequently brag about how amazing it is here, and Encinitas just continues to get better and better. And nowhere is it more evident than in the new parks and trails that have been added to the city, whether it's the Encinitas Park or the CRT or the soon to open Olympus Park. I'm really excited about all this positive momentum, and I want to become even more involved to build upon this forward progress as a Parks and Rec Commissioner. Just real quickly, I wanted to give you maybe 3 reasons to consider me for the position. First off, I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner in Encinitas and Cardiff for 22 years. I've had the opportunity of working with some of the largest companies in the world. I get along well with everyone and do well at building consensus towards a common goal. I also understand that we all have budget constraints and restrictions, and we have to prioritize needs to get the greatest benefit. Number 2, I was a fitness instructor. I just love the outdoors, and I've taught classes outside for about 15 years. I understand the value that parks and trails and classes provide to the community, especially during these times of COVID, whether it's hiking or sports or just walking the dog. But more importantly, and number 3, more importantly, I really care about people and our community. I have a public heart with a passion to get things done. I frequently volunteer at community events. I manage a Facebook page, keeping citizens informed of community activities and happenings. Just in summary, I have been proud to serve my country as a U.S. Air Force Academy or a U.S. Air Force officer, and now I'd like to serve my city as a Park and Rec Commissioner. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next applicant is Kevin Straw. Kevin, you can start when ready. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you for your consideration for me for this advisory committee. My name is Kevin Straw. I'm a 12-year resident of Encinitas. I have had a 23-year career as a recreation professional. My qualifications are unique and directly related to the role of the commission. I serve as the Executive Director of Mission Bay Aquatic Center, which is an award-winning recreation program that's owned and operated by San Diego State University and UCSD. It's their school for water sports like sailing, surfing, kayaking, wakeboarding. I manage over 200 employees at that program with a $3 million budget. And the facility that I manage is a leasehold in the extraordinary Mission Bay Park. So I do have lots of experience working closely with the City of San Diego Parks and Rec Department. And I have some commission experience through working closely with and as a consultant to their Mission Bay Park Committee, which is basically an advisory committee to the San Diego City Council, similar to the way this works in Encinitas. Through my work with that committee, I have come to understand the role of the commission to provide accurate information and data and guidance and serve in an advisory role. I've also had a longstanding relationship with the California State Parks Department, primarily executing grants through teaching boating safety and also consulting with other recreation programs that do similar work throughout California. My experience operating within these large institutions qualifies me to understand the nature of working for and within this commission and the city of Encinitas. My experience also outlines my passion for recreation and serving the community. And I'd love to use my Park and Rec experience to assist this amazing community.
Thank you, Kevin. And then our final applicant for Parks and Recreation is Stephen Winters.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I apologize for that. Nice to see everybody today. This meeting actually worked out great for me today. I was even able to get a haircut today, so things worked out perfect. So thanks very much for your time and consideration. I really appreciate it very much. I think it's great that we have so many, wonderful and qualified and very interested citizens. I think that goes a lot, says a lot about how much people love our city and says a lot about the leadership that everyone here on the City Council has brought to the city. So thank you very much for that. I think some of you know me from my work as on the EACA as it relates to the Pacific View property. I actually believe there are synergies between my work that's been done at Pacific View as a board member of the EACA and Parks and Rec, and I would love to be on this commission. I'd be honored to be on it and maybe be able to serve as a liaison, as a bridge between the commission and Pacific View if you two see that there's synergies there as well. I also thought it was interesting about some of the comments that some of our citizens made earlier in the meeting tonight about how some of our parks are maybe being used as they weren't originally intended. And maybe one of the things Parks and Rec could undertake is analyzing some of the policies that we have in place to help the City Council make decisions if needed as well, to make sure that our parks are being used in the way that was really intended. I think you know me as somebody who collaborates, likes to build a consensus. I think you also know I've been a long time Encinitas resident, approximately 16 years, and have been active in many of the youth organizations here as my kids grew up in town, and I participated as best I could as a coach. Even though if I didn't know all the rules, we tried our best to try to make sure that the kids were having a good time and enjoying the parks and the leagues as well. Again, I'll be brief, but thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'd be very honored to be on the commission. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That does conclude the applicants for Parks and Recreation Commission. And just as a reminder, we are making 3 appointments to this commission.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hinsey.
I would like to nominate Brad Hansen because I worked with him during my time at Lucadia 101 Main Street, and I always found him so personable, so dependable, so devoted to the city, and really willing to sit through a lot of long meetings, listen to different perspectives, and still maintain friendships with people even if they didn't agree. And I'm happy that he's stepping forward for this role.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mosca.
Yeah, it's good to see that we have so many qualified folks that want to serve on this commission. One of the commissions that I think is a really fun commission, and having served on it before, it's a great commission to serve on. There are a few candidates, a few applicants that I think that really rise above for me, and that I'd like to put forth, and that's Brad Hansen, number 1, Ross Ritter, number 2, and Steve Winters, number 3.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Krantz.
I second Joe's recommendations.
Okay, great. Did you want to speak again, Councilmember Hinsey?
Sure, I will. I didn't want to take too many more recommendations than one at that time, but I also felt that Maureen really distinguished herself too, and just the experience that she has that goes so far back in our city as a camp counselor at the YMCA and continuing to serve even folks who are seniors now, that really impressed me. I did notice that she also applied for the senior commission, and so I was curious to know if she had a preference.
Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and make a motion here. So I have high hopes for Maureen on the senior commission and have good feelings about that as it comes up. So I'm going to recommend Brad Hansen, Ross Ritter, and Stephen Winters. And I just want to recognize as well the other applicants. So Louis and Stefan and Maureen and Kevin all were really great, strong applicants, and you could do a great job on this commission, and I encourage you to reapply because these positions do come up periodically. Councilmember Krantz, I see your hand up.
That's from last time. I didn't.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's my recommendation.
I'll second that motion.
Start voting. Councilmember Hensy,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Crayons,
Yes.
and Mayor Blakespear.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. We now move to, give me 1 second. We now move to the Planning Commission, and we will start with the Planning Commission Cardiff representative. You're making one appointment, and then we will move to the Old Encinitas representative, where we are also making one appointment. And just as a reminder, for all the commissions, with the exception of the Planning Commission, the mayor makes the recommendation for appointment with council concurrence. On the Planning Commission, it's the legislative body as a whole, so anyone can make a motion to appoint a planning commissioner. So our first applicant is Steve Dalton.
Okay, are you hearing me now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for entertaining my application tonight. I am a 30-year resident of Cardiff. I have my wife and 3 kids. We live in Cardiff for the last 30 years. And I'm a professional architect. I've been in practice for 25 years. I have a deep understanding of housing and the city's development process. You'll know me probably as the architect for the Moonlight Beach Lifeguard Station and restroom improvements. And so I've worked in and around the city my entire career. Another aspect of my practice is focused on housing. And we've worked with affordable housing developers and for-profit developers, as well as private homeowners doing additions and remodels, ADUs throughout the city. I'm very familiar with the city staff, the planning department, and the city regulations, and particularly state laws regarding density bonus. I think I could bring a lot of expertise to this position as the city wrestles with housing element updates, the El Camino Real corridor, bike improvements and street improvements. So my goals on this commission would be to find balanced housing in our community, to emphasize pedestrian and bike-friendly streets and modes of transportation, look for environmental sound practices in our built environment, and to bring some clarity to the development regulations as they are today. So with that, I'll conclude and thank you again for consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next applicant is Matthew Loker. Matthew, you can start when ready. I don't see him. Let me see. I do not see him on my speakers list, so we'll move to Molly Poisette. Molly, you need to unmute your microphone. We can't hear you. You need to unmute your microphone. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Excellent. Okay. Hello all. Mayor Blakespear and council persons. So my name is Molly Poisette, and I do have some prepared remarks, but I would just like to say that before I start, that Steve Dalton looks like he would be a really excellent candidate for this. I believe I would do a great job, but I just want to say that Brett Farrow had recommended him to me as well. So with that, I am going to tell you a bit about myself. So my name is Molly Poisette, and I am new to the Cardiff by the Sea, but I have a deep family history here. And so I'm going to go into that for just a bit. I live off of Manchester and overlook the San Alejo Lagoon. And with these amazing sweeping views out to the ocean, and I watch the coaster go by. And from where I live, you can see Seaside Beach. And Seaside Beach is where my parents in 1947 honeymooned. And then they chose, after their honeymoon, to move to Cardiff and then Leucadia. They ended up opening a store on PCH in the 500 block of downtown Encinitas. And so my family has a very deep connection to Seaside Beach, where not only did my parents honeymoon there, but both of them asked that their ashes be spread into the sea off of Seaside. So when I need respite and a place to go, I go down to Cardiff, I walk along the beach at Seaside. And when I put my toes in the water, it's like as if I'm being embraced, not just by the ocean, but by my parents and the memory of my parents. So one of my sisters has lived in the area for 40 years, and I have many, many memories and lots of family time here in Cardiff. So going on, I would just like to say that being a new resident full-time to Cardiff, my background on my printed resume with regards to architecture, planning, and interior design, and I'm an entrepreneur. So I believe that my best suited position, if I were to be appointed, would be on this Planning Commission board. And I'd be happy to serve if you think I would be the best applicant. I do know the area very well, even though I am a new resident. So I appreciate your listening to me, and I would love to serve and sort of honor my family history here in the North County, San Diego area. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Molly. And that does, let me make sure that Matthew did not join. Let's see, Matthew Loker. I do not see Matthew on the list. Just let me double check. So that does conclude the applicants for the Cardiff representative on the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Krantz.
I would like to thank Molly for sharing her story. It is very heartwarming, and I know that our city is infectious and does draw people back. And so it was a story that I can relate to. With that said, I agree with Molly that Stephen Dalton would be the right person to appoint as the planning commissioner for Cardiff. So I would make a motion that we appoint Stephen Dalton.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and thank you for Molly, for your interest and sharing your story. And I hope that you continue to be involved.
Yeah, I would add as well, just I'm going to support that motion, but Molly, I'm really impressed and very moved by your story. And I do hope that we work together to get you involved in some way. I know that you're already involved, but perhaps in other committees or commissions of our city. It took me 2 tries to get on the Parks and Rec Commission. So do stay around because we could absolutely use your heart and soul on one of our commissions. So thank you.
Start voting. Councilmember Hensy?
Yes.
Councilmember Moscow?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Krantz?
Yes.
And Mayor Blakespear?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. We now move to the applicants for the Old Encinitas representative on the Planning Commission. And our first applicant is Kevin Doyle.
All right, I'm here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Blakespear and council members. I actually prepared a little talk because I only have 2 minutes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kevin Doyle. I've lived here since 2003. My wife and I, we built our business here. We bought a home here in Encinitas, and we've been blessed with a really beautiful boy, Cooper, who's now a first grader over at Pawlecky Central. This is my home, really, and I love it here. I work hard to protect it, not just for myself, but really for the next generation. You have children, you look at the world differently. Now, I've served 4 years now on the Planning Commission, currently serving as vice chair. And just to let you know, I started this position as a layman. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a developer, I'm not a planner. I can read plans, I can read code, and I've become an expert on our municipal code. And I have a substantial library to back it up, highlighted and annotated. Our code is really a thing of beauty. Most folks would really be amazed at all the things that people in the past have already anticipated and addressed in this document. It's amazing. One of my favorite aspects of this job is working on the language for our new and updated citywide ordinances. It's tricky. Minor changes, as you know, could have huge impact. I'm very proud of the stance I've taken on use permits for alcohol, and I think we really managed to tamp down some of the overabundance of joy in downtown. I'm also very proud of changing one very key word in the density bonus ordinance. Watching my time a little bit. There's a lot of big projects coming in these next years, and I think I'm the person to be there. I'm aware of every project that's in front of us, and I'm working hard to mentor in the next generation of planning commissioners, which happens every couple of years. We get a new one. So that was my time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. And then our next applicant is Craig Gertz. Craig, you can start. You have 2 minutes. You can start when ready.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Our time together is limited, so let me focus on a few points for your consideration for me on the Planning Commission. I have a strong professional and community resume that would let me jump right into this role. All that is laid out in my application, so I won't repeat it here. What I would like to focus on is the vibe of this city. Over the 10 years since I moved to Encinitas, I have come to deeply appreciate this city as a unique community of communities with its laid-back beach town character, its natural beauty and resources, its agricultural heritage, its educational opportunities, its retail diversity, all these different elements culminating in a vibe that is simply impossible to recreate elsewhere. I would work hard to bring this passion for that vibe to the Planning Commission where appropriate and feasible. But this city is in real danger of losing that vibe. Primary reason, shifting demographics. We are a victim of our own success. Housing has become out of reach for more and more folks who live or work here, young and old. As they get pushed out, this city loses that diversity of background, that energy, that vibe, and instead becomes yet another boring island of overwhelming affluence and homogeny. I get that the city is relooking at its inclusionary housing requirements and checking the stock of buildable city-owned land. But if we are to rescue that vibe, we must shift to a more proactive approach towards affordable housing. And the Planning Commission is the obvious place from which to start. It can create dialogue among the various constituencies, guide public vetting and debate, and work to achieve consensus on alternative options for moving forward for this council's and the voters' consideration. A huge endeavor requiring long-term vision, strong political leadership, and ultimately voter approval. But to save this city's vibe, I urge this council to take on this challenge with or without me on the Planning Commission. But if you're so inclined, there's probably no candidate under consideration better than I to help achieve this goal. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Craig. And that concludes applicants for Old Encinitas representative on the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to recognize Craig and your background. It looks like you have all these antlers and a big crown coming out from your head because of your placement in front of your art piece. But thank you for your passion about the city. I think we all love the vibe and cherish it and are working hard to maintain it every day. So do my colleagues have any comments that they would like to make? Yes, Councilmember Hinsey.
I will. I was really engaged by Craig's 2 minutes, and I felt myself being sucked in and sort of feeling like that passion was contagious. I would, though, support Kevin Doyle to continue serving on our planning commission. He's really served us well, and every time that we have a huge decision coming to us, I often rewatch the planning commission meetings, and I'm so grateful for Kevin's ability to kind of weed and wade through excessive amounts of information. And so for that reason, I would move to approve Kevin Doyle's appointment to Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I would second that and thank Craig as well for his passion. But Kevin's involvement in the community goes way, way back, long before he was appointed to Planning Commissioner for Old Encinitas. He's been, I think, on every Main Street Association we have and a number of other groups. So I appreciate all his efforts, and I think a second term on the Planning Commission is warranted.
Okay, great. I agree. So let's go ahead and vote.
All right, Councilmember Hinsey,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Krantz,
Yes.
and Mayor Blakespear.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. We now move to the Senior Citizen Commission, and we have 3 scheduled vacancies. And then today we received a resignation, so we do also have 1 unscheduled vacancy with a term ending March 2023. And we do have 4 applicants. 1 applicant did withdraw. So we have a total of 4. The first one is Mona Angel. Mona,
Kathy, Madam Mayor, I was wondering if I could just make a motion. I mean, if the applicants want to speak, they can speak, but we have 4 spots with 4 candidates. I would just move to appoint all of them.
Okay, well, you can't move because I have to move.
Oh, sorry. I would recommend.
Okay, and I'm happy to do that. I want to just, Kathy, if you could just go through and just have them give the thumbs up, and if they want to speak, they've waited this long, I don't want to cut them off, but if they're okay.
Mona, do you want to speak? You just say yes or no?
No, I don't need to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mona. Christy Kramer Levander. Christy, do you want to speak?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Maureen? Did you
No,
want to?
no,
Okay.
I don't need to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Laura. Laura Rao.
I don't need to speak either, but I'm very pleased.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, great. I will move approval of the 4 of you, and thank you for volunteering your time. We look forward to your service.
I'll second.
Okay, Councilmember Hinsey,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Krantz,
Yes.
Mayor Blakespear.
Yes.
And then actually on that motion to just let me know which applicant will be serving the shorter term.
They draw straws at the next meeting?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Except for Mona's being reappointed for a 2nd term because she's an incumbent. So why don't the 3 of them draw straws at the next meeting?
And City Attorney, is that okay to do?
Yes, that works.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move to Traffic and Public Safety Commission. We do have 2 scheduled vacancy, 1 Cardiff representative vacancy and 1 Olivenhain representative vacancy. What the incumbent has termed out, and then Olivenhain was vacant. So there is 1 applicant for Cardiff, Matthew Loker, and I do not see him here to speak.
Well, I did review his application and think he seems qualified and interested and would be a good addition. So as long as he's still interested in the position, I would make a motion that we appoint him.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Start going. Councilmember Hinsey,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Krantz,
Yes.
and Mayor Blakespear.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Now we move to the Olivenheim representative on the Traffic and Public Safety Commission. We do have 5 applicants. The first is Doug Goad. Doug, you can start when ready. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, is that, is it good? We're good to go?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about Traffic Commission. I'm going to combine this with a little bit of experience from Parks and Rec and Trails and try to integrate the two ideas together. I moved to Olivenhain in 1993. We did, my wife and I, and by the middle of 1995, we had a subcommittee going in the San Diego Riders Equestrian Club to focus on the need to preserve trails in Encinitas, which are popular and were popular and have continued to be. I was able to recruit a contractor, Peter Felance of Felance Construction, who provided the labor to construct the Little Oaks Equestrian Park, and the city provided the funds for the materials. So we split that 50-50. We were able to obtain a park through that operation. Little Oaks Park has provided a showcase of the popularity of trails in Encinitas. And the activity around the new equestrian park provided a RFP for the Encinitas Trails Master Plan, which was adopted in 2002. So I feel directly related to that. And the creation of the Trails Advocacy Group also came out of that activity, was the Encinitas Trails Coalition, which I am the founding president. During my 20 years on the Parks and Rec Commission, I assisted in the development and build out of the Trails Master Plan. Trails are popular and a natural part of life in Encinitas. The Trails Master Plan also includes a lot of paved streets that are used as connectors to help the circulation work better as far as the Trails Master Plan goes. For the Traffic Commission, I'm interested in the circulation element and the safe integration of e-bikes into everyday life in Encinitas. I also believe there'll be a substantial change in the trips we experience on our roadways because of the COVID and also because of the changing work patterns. I'm also an active participant in the county multiple species conservation program. And also I'm a chair of the County Parks Advisory Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Our next applicant is Janae Gunderson. Janae, you can start when ready. Your 2 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Blakespear and distinguished members of the Encinitas City Council. My name is Janae Gunderson, and I'm interested in being a member of the Traffic and Public Safety Commission. I've been interested in traffic and public safety for over 30 years. I graduated from Santa Clara University in 1989 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and I began working right away in the transportation division for the city of San Jose. My responsibilities included managing roadway projects, developing traffic plans for the San Jose Arena, and working with the residents on traffic and pedestrian safety. In 1993, I obtained a professional engineer's license. In 1999, we moved to Encinitas, and I accepted a job as a transportation planner for Sandag. I'm interested in being a member of the Traffic and Public Safety Commission for the city of Encinitas because I love our city, and I also enjoy working with the city government. In addition, I'm passionate about all forms of transportation, including vehicular, pedestrian, equestrian, and bicycles. My goal is to brainstorm with others to develop reasonable, safe, and balanced city projects to improve and enhance transportation in the city of Encinitas. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. And I'd like to thank you all for your service, your excellent professional service. I've been to several council meetings and I'm very impressed. And I just thank you that Encinitas is such a wonderful city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next applicant is Lewis Jackson. Lewis, you can start when ready.
Thanks, Kathy, and thanks, council members. You were kind enough to listen to my presentation earlier for Parks and Recreation, so I won't take you through that one more time. But I am a long-term resident of Alevinheim, and I'm very invested in the community and would be honored to serve on the commission if the opportunity presented itself. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lewis. Our next applicant is Robert Prendergast. Robert, there you go. You can start when ready. Unmute. There you go.
There we go. You all set?
You're all set.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Blakespear, council members, and staff. My name is Robert Prendergast, and I'm here this evening as an applicant for the Traffic and Safety Commission representing community of Alevinheim. My resume, you have my resume and my personal statement from my application, but I'd like to take a moment just to introduce myself. I'm 58 years old, married, father of two, Sophie and Olivia, who have both graduated from college. Both daughters attended OPE. Sophie graduated from SDA, while Olivia graduated from Pacific Ridge. My wife of 31 years, Sally, and I are empty nesters. For the past 36 years, I've been involved in commercial real estate and investment banking. My career has stretched from Los Angeles to Chicago to Los Angeles, and since 2003, Encinitas. I was a partner at the San Diego-based Burnham Real Estate, a longtime San Diego firm with roots back to the 1800s. In 2008, my partner and I left Burnham and opened up the San Diego office of Jones Lang LaSalle, a global real estate services company. The small office has grown to over 80 producers and staff. I've applied to the commission because I feel I can be of value to the city, the commission, and my fellow residents of Alevinheim. I bring a broad-based understanding of real estate and finance and a useful enthusiasm and a desire to serve. Through my tenure, I've acquired knowledge of commercial development, including CEQA and zoning issues. I've overseen the operations of a portfolio of luxury hotels, high-rise office buildings, industrial developments, development of affordable housing, and the sale of tax credits. I've completed sales of life science properties, office properties, and industrial properties totaling over $6 billion. I'm excited and eager to support my community on the commission. It serves a vital role in addressing the challenges of growth and densification resulting increase in traffic and mobility. The commission's role is vital in addressing citywide vehicle speeds, wildfire evacuations, creating safe pathways to schools for students and parents, completion of Trail 82, refinement of the cross-connect implementation plan for access to our beaches and businesses. These issues touch every citizen and every visitor. Thank you for your time this evening, your consideration, and your commitment to our city. I'm happy that you have such great applicants to choose from, and I'd be happy to serve on the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our final applicant is Dan Vaughn. Dan, you can start when ready. You have 2 minutes.
Hello. I think you guys all know me from the advocacy work I've done throughout Encinitas on behalf of social justice through St. Andrews and on behalf of the homeless or the affordable housing action plan through Encinitas Residents for Responsible Development. You probably also know me as the president of the Alevinheim Town Council, and I'm about to be termed out in June of that role. But I believe that moving forward with some of the deep community concerns and desires through the Planning Commission or through the Traffic Commission will be instrumental. We're nearing a transition from building consensus within the Olivenheim community to advocating for the implementation of those recommendations on the Rancho Santa Fe Road Task Force proposals. And I think we have a meeting with city staff scheduled for February 18th to finalize those recommendations and make that transition official. And I thank the council for support of city staff and the limited funds for the traffic study to support that. And I also think that my work with staff and Jennifer Gates in particular, as we tackle the circulation element, will be instrumental and important. And I look forward to working with the other traffic commissioners and staff on finding ways that help the city balance traffic, drivers, as well as pedestrians, bicyclists, back here in Olivenheim, equestrians, in finding solutions that are win-win for the city. So I thank you guys for considering my application.
Thank you, Dan. That does conclude applicants for the Olivenheim representative on the Traffic and Public Safety Commission.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mosca.
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't speak up and just say thank you to all of the folks that have applied, my 5 Olivenheim residents, fellow neighbors. Thank you. They're all very qualified and very talented. I did want to say thank you to Janae and Louis. Thank you for applying, and to Louis. We actually chatted on the telephone, and very impressed with Louis, and hope if he doesn't get the spot tonight that he definitely stays involved. We'd love to see you volunteering in some function in Olivenheim and throughout our city. So thank you for applying. I did want to highlight 3 of the candidates because these are 3 that I've personally know and have personally worked with. First is Dan Vaughn, who just spoke. Dan is the president of the Olivenheim Town Council. He works with me on the Rancho Santa Fe Road Task Force, trying to improve the functioning of that road, and he's been an important asset of that committee. And he definitely knows he knows traffic, understands circulation elements, and I think he would be a good fit for this committee. He's also been, Commissioner, I meant to say, he's also been working with us on affordable housing and other issues in our city. So he's somebody that's really engaged, and I think he would make he'd be a good fit for this commission. Doug Goad is somebody that I personally know as well. Doug and I served on the Parks and Rec Commission together, and Doug was instrumental in our Parks and Rec master plan update. He brought up tonight the trails. Interestingly, Doug has been intimately involved in the creation of a lot of our trails and the trails master plan, and so he knows those very well. And I think the connection with trails really is the aspect of multimodal, where we're especially in Olivenheim and on the eastern portion of our city, we're seeing a lot more folks that are using our trails for walking, riding their bikes, riding the horses, leading their horses. So it is a way of looking at our city from a multimodal way. And I think that Doug really has a unique kind of lens onto how to make more connections throughout our entire city on the Traffic and Public Safety Commission. Bob Prendergast is the next person I want to talk about. Bob is incredibly impressive, either by himself or with his wife, who is also extremely impressive, who I see every day running outdoors. And they're both an amazing couple, an amazing Olivenheim couple. Bob is also a member of the Sierra Club, and who has advocated and lobbied me for doing things to decrease greenhouse gases, joining the Community Choice Energy Program. So he's somebody that's also been focused on multimodal really trying to move us away from kind of the dirty fossil fuels and find different ways of moving people around the city. This is something that he's been advocating for, as well as his wife. So I think all three of them would be great fits for our Traffic and Public Safety Commission. And all three of them really know Levenheim, so they would add not only to the commission from kind of a global perspective, but bring that Levenheim lens to the job as well.
Okay, thank you. So first, I want to say thank you to Doug Goad for all of your many years of service on our commissions and otherwise. And Janae, I was impressed with your connection with Sandag. I think that's a fantastic agency. I'm currently the chair of it, and the staff does so much work, and you do such a great job. It's such a professional organization. And I hope that there's a spot for you to be involved in our commissions and otherwise with our city government. I encourage you to apply for some commissions in the future. And then Dan Vaughn, I think you would be a great match for the Equity Committee, which is the next thing we're going to talk about. You know, your social justice work has been impressive, and I think of that as a better fit for you. And I'm really grateful for all your work on the Rancho Santa Fe Task Force and the Levenheim Town Council. It's substantial, and you're really deeply involved in the community in a way that's really important. So, but when I think about the Traffic Commission and who to make a recommendation I'm going to recommend Robert Prendergast because of the reasons that Councilmember Mosca stated, basically. I won't repeat them, but that would be my motion to move forward with Robert.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. I have one other thing I want to talk about on the Traffic Commission, but let's go ahead and vote here.
Councilmember Hensy?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Crayons?
Yes.
And Mayor Blakespear?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
And then the last thing I wanted to suggest was that we ask the Traffic Commission to reconsider its name, because traffic and public safety is, I think, a bit of an ill fit now. I'd like them to consider something that uses the word mobility so that it more encompasses what we're doing. It's not just traffic oriented. So we could kick that over to the commission to talk about what might be a more appropriate name for that commission. Is that something that we have concurrence on? You can just give me a thumbs up. Yes. Okay. Yes, Councilmember Crayons.
Yeah, and I would actually say that the efforts to make it a public safety commission, I think, have largely failed. Its agenda is essentially always related to the traffic and mobility issues that you talk about. And I do think that changing the name to incorporate multimodal efforts would be appropriate. But you know, we expanded it and added the public safety, thinking that it would be a great place to talk about our first responders, fire safety and police, and it just has never really been used for that. So I like your idea of asking them to consider and maybe write a new mission statement, but
okay,
thing is probably something that should be eliminated.
And then Mayor Blakespear, I just wanted to remind all the applicants that were not appointed that their applications will stay on file in case there is an unscheduled vacancy. And then just to remind them also that all the meetings are open to the public. So even though they're not appointed, they are welcome to view all those meetings and participate as they desire.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to ask the city manager then to task the Traffic Commission with reconsidering its name and mission statement. And I'll just echo what Councilmember Crayons just said. You can't, Deputy Mayor, you were on the City Council and I was on the Traffic Commission when you directed the change in name of that commission, and I was there for close to 4 years. And I remember that whole discussion about what does that mean for us and what do we do differently. And I think you're absolutely right that it never really took. And so having the work that they're doing reflected by their name, I think is really a smart move here. So I appreciate that you said that. So, okay, I think that's it on this item. We're really grateful again to everybody, and we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is I think it's the equity committee item.
It's the council member initiated item.
Yes. Okay, so just trying to get back to that screen. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is item 12A. I know we have a number of public comments on this, right?
Yes, we do. We have 6.
Okay, let's go ahead and take the public comments.
Okay. Our first speaker is Marlon Taylor, and he is taking the place of Felicia Rollins. Marlon, you can start speaking when you're ready, and you do have 3 minutes.
All right. Good evening. It's been a long day for all of us. And first off, I want to say thank you guys for taking this step to establish the Encinitas Equity Committee. As a 14-year resident of Encinitas, I absolutely love the city, but I believe that it is important that we take steps to make sure that we're being as inclusive and welcoming as possible. Diversity is essential to any community. Establishing and fostering a community that values our differences will make us stronger. A diverse environment also has multiple benefits that benefit us individually and as a community. Becoming accepting and aware of other cultures can help eliminate stereotypes and will also heighten our innovation and creativity. Additionally, by looking into any equality gaps associated with public transportation, housing, public safety, we take a position of leadership among the North County coastal cities. And that should be our desired goal, to lead from the front. So with that being said, I hope that people that question the need for this committee take the opportunity to actively participate in a good faith manner, because believe me, we're definitely stronger together. And that's all I have to say. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Marlon. Our next speaker is Jody White.
Hi. Good evening. Thank you, council members, for your time and service. My name is Jody White, and I've been a resident of Encinitas for over a decade. I'm a parent of 3 children in the EUST district, and I'm one of the co-founders of Encinitas for Equality. Through my activism work, I have heard from various individuals who've described Encinitas as unwelcoming. Creating an equity committee would communicate to locals and visitors that Encinitas is prioritizing intersectionality and inclusivity through community outreach. As you stated, there is no fiscal cost to this committee. And it really just occurred to me that how incredible that is if you think about it. Being inclusive to all doesn't cost any money. It simply only takes time and commitment. Tackling all these issues that you've laid out, like transportation and housing and land use and infrastructure, public safety, social racism, and environmental justice, is not a small feat. Including your community members as stakeholders is key to collaborating and working collectively for the future of our city. As a parent, I believe it is imperative that the community support the creation of this committee. We must lead by example. I'm very proud that the City Council is creating the Equity Committee, and I am in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Our next speaker is Cindy Cremona. Cindy, you can start when ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There are so many issues I'd love to address here, including the increasing amount of homelessness our city is experiencing, as well as the elevation in crime that never gets reported to the public. But tonight, I'd like to address item 12A. The February 10th agenda report is confusing and seemingly redundant in some aspects. Is this an oversight committee? If so, it looks like this committee wants to have a say in every aspect of the Encinitas community. Why? Don't we have local nonprofit organizations doing some of this work? Isn't recruitment and development covered under your Human Resources Department's practices? What specific data and expectations does this committee expect to gather or meet? Will this data be shared with the community, or like the Safe Parking Program, have no accountability to the residents? This item is interestingly short on detail. You would think an agenda item up for approval would be specific, detailed, thorough, and complete. During the July virtual community forum, our very own Captain Taft, a man of color, dismissed any notion of discrimination or minority injustice in our city. Why then is the city creating issues where none exist? If they do, let's hear some examples, please. Or is just another virtue signaling platform to elevate the careers of Miss Blakespear and Miss Hinsey? If there's anywhere in Encinitas where injustice is being perpetrated, it's on our streets. Mayor, your policies actually created a crisis where we had none before. Maybe yourself and my district rep too, Ms. Hinsey, should focus on the inequity experienced by those living on our streets, in our parks, and even on our rail trail. When asked, city cleanup crews clearing bushes on the rail trail just yesterday said they were directed to remove rail trail shrubbery to keep the homeless from sleeping there. Is this show compassion? It really is criminal how our city government ignores inequities it has created while creating committees for inequities that don't exist. Lastly, I sincerely hope this is not a committee created to return favors and friends. The city does have a reputation for appointing like-minded acquaintances while overlooking those with actual qualifications. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ronette Yeomans.
Good evening. I actually applaud Mayor Blakespear and Council Member Kelly Shea Hinsey for understanding the need for the city's Equity Committee that's soon to become a reality. And as I understand it, the proposed committee will be working towards the goals of equality and justice in the services provided to the diverse residents in Encinitas. And yes, there are diverse residents here, in addition to addressing systemic racial bias. And there is racial bias in this city. George Floyd's death on May 25th was a wake-up call to those of us who had been living happily, comfortably, and safely in Encinitas. There were students and residents of Encinitas who took that mic at the Cardiff Kook back in June when Encinitas for Equality held vigils to mourn the Black lives lost to police violence. They shared personal stories of encounters with racism in our town, as well as in other North County communities. And it became clear that racism and social inequality exist in our fair town. So I do hope the Equity Committee will not only examine police presence in order to build more trust in our city, but will look at systemic racism in education and public safety, which includes the needs of people without housing. Yes, these areas are all interrelated and have a direct impact on the other, as well as the quality of life for everyone in Encinitas. I also strongly support your dedication to the inclusion that you mentioned when you select members of the Equity Committee. This will ensure a diverse commission that represents the ethnic communities that have been marginalized or invisible in Encinitas. So by creating the Encinitas Equity Committee, you are standing with communities of color, the working class, LGBTQ and gender non-forming people, and all of those disadvantaged by social and physical disability in efforts to reverse the effects of historically unfair policies and practice. I thank you, and I am very proud of our city.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Julie Hinsey. Julie, make sure you unmute your microphone.
Oh, I pressed that microphone, but I think there's another place to press.
There you go.
Well, I would say, good evening, everyone listening tonight. I fully support the city in forming an Encinitas Equity Committee based on application procedures. Because of the recent protests that Ronette was speaking about of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, it has forced all of us to confront the reality that racism exists and perpetuates itself in ways we've neglected to fully examine. By forming an Encinitas Equity Committee, our city will provide a diverse voice to begin conversations dedicated to end systemic racism and promote social justice for its residents. It is something every city and school needs to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And our final speaker is Molly Woods.
Hi there. Thank you, Mayor Blakespear and City Council for the opportunity to speak tonight on an agenda item that is extremely important to me. And my name is Molly Woods-Drake. I'm the president of Encinitas for Equality. Our mission is to lead on ending racism and address systemic inequity through educating, organizing, and mobilizing our committee. And I'm speaking tonight in full support of the creation of the Encinitas Equity Committee. In full transparency, I've never been an individual who was highly engaged and active within my local community. I spent most of my adult life working in the social justice movement with the focus primarily in national and state politics, policies, and social change. And it is only within the past year, hearing statements from our Black students facing racism in their classrooms, our unhoused neighbors thankful for meals, that I realized how important and vital our voices are within our homes, our backyard, our city councils, and local agencies. While I've always understood the power of collective unity, I never truly put this into practice at the local level. But now that I've been able to collectively create local change with like-minded neighbors who lead with compassion rather than fear, whether in a subject area as complex as affordable housing or as abstract as making a neighbor feel a part of their community for the first time, I understand that change needs to start locally in order to create the ripple effect to alter the national conversation. The creation of Encinitas Equity Committee makes me not simply love living in Encinitas, it makes me proud to live here as well. In times as divided as these present days, it's easy to bury our heads in the sand and turn away from the complex and often uncomfortable conversations of white race, white privilege, diversity, and equity. It's easy to sit at our tables, many overlooking the ocean, and say the seats are full, we have no more space for others to join. It's easy to leave good enough alone. But as a country and as a city, we have done what is easy for many of us for far too long, rather than doing what is right for the majority. I believe now more than ever, it's time to take an honest assessment of ourselves as individuals, as residents in this community, and as elected officials leading, and seek ways to do better. I believe that the creation of the Encinitas Equity Committee is a necessary step in the right direction to do just that. I commend and thank Mayor Blakespear and City Councilmember Hinsey for leading on this, for seeing the need to build a bigger table, to create the space for diverse community members to have a seat and to amplify their voices in these conversations so that they can inspire all of us to be bold and to be brave in order to create a more just and equitable Encinitas. Thank you.
That does conclude speakers, Mayor Blakespear.
Okay, thank you. I'll just say a few words and then I'll also let Councilmember Hinsey say a few words about this. So the Equity Committee, the way that that I'm conceiving of this, or that we're conceiving of this, I think it grows out of having a lot of conversations with our community members and reflecting on the reality of the times that we're in, and recognizing that in Encinitas, we do have people and groups and realities that lead people to be disenfranchised and disadvantaged and discriminated against and feel that they lack a voice and marginalized. And you go to the bigger pictures of the systemic inequities and think, what can we do about that? You know, we're city leaders, those of us who sit on the city council, this professional staff at the city of Encinitas, what can we do about that? And the thing that we can do, I reflect back on the book that I read that was written by our former president, Barack Obama, who was a community organizer. And he was trying to help communities figure out what they wanted to do. What is it that they want to do? So it's not a top-down thing where we're up here saying, we want to make this change in how we approach one particular area. We want to lift up the voices and empower the people in our community who are thinking about this, working on it. And there are so many good ideas and they're so diverse. And so the idea behind this equity committee is to just get a group of people together that represent organizations and groups and individuals. And I hope we have a really robust applicant pool, and the group will get together and decide on the work plan. So it will be basically from that bottom up and not from the top down. And that's one of the reasons that I see this as a committee and not as a commission, because the way commissions work is that they really are run by the city. The city staff puts together the agenda, they're noticed, they sit within City Hall, they make decisions that are put before them by city staff members. And I see this as being really owned by the people and the organizations in our city, and allowing that work plan to form as it would. So, you know, in the staff report as written, it's very broad. And I think you could criticize that as one of our speakers did for not being filled out enough or specific enough. But to me, the point of it is to be broad enough to encompass where this committee decides it wants to go. So I wrote in there, transportation, access to housing, land use, infrastructure, public safety, broadband access, and social, racial, and environmental justice issues. And I think it's really important also just to note the reason that it's called Equity Committee. You know, people say like equality or equity and what's the difference? And I just wanted to just in one sentence summarize the difference, because I think it's important to remember this, and many of us probably didn't focus in on this before really thinking about these issues. So equality is about dividing resources in matching amounts, and equity focuses on dividing resources proportionally to achieve a fair outcome for those involved. And I think that that's a really key part, is that we're not talking about everybody having the exact same equal amount. We're trying to lift up those who have been historically disenfranchised and have lacked equity in our society. So I'm hopeful that the council will support this. I'm encouraged by the speakers who called in tonight and stayed till the end of the meeting and also wrote emails about this. And I think that for many, it really will resonate, because it will give, there are at least a handful, there are probably 24, I would say, groups and organizations and people that I can think of off the top of my head who in our city who are engaged in these types of issues already. And getting us all together to talk about that, I think will be really fruitful. So I'll hand it over to Councilmember Hinsey. And I think I'll just say, she and I have had a number of conversations over many months about this topic. And then it finally kind of gelled in a way that this seemed like an actual action we could take that would help us achieve those goals as a city. So Councilmember Hinsey, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, I do. And thanks for teeing that up so beautifully, and also for having the skill to put all of these concepts to paper, because it was you, Mayor Blakespear, that took these concepts and put pen to paper and articulating this. And I think what I feel about the shortness of this agenda item is that in its simplicity, it's so elegant, because it really does talk about all of these different types of historic exclusion that we will be working through, and all of the different ways that this conversation has popped up. I certainly want to acknowledge the efforts of my colleagues, Deputy Mayor Krantz and Councilmember Mosca as well, because you both have also been willing to take up this conversation in all of the capacities that you have. The three of you were present at the Kook for the Black Lives Matter protests. You showed up and you've continued to stay committed. Councilmember Mosca, in the context of the school district liaison committee, a lot of this conversation spilled over, and we had this conversation month after month, and it was sort of like, where does this all live? And I think in the ways that was so encouraging was that it could live in any city department, and it could live in any effort that we have from public safety, which I know is something that Deputy Mayor Krantz is so passionate about and has continued to keep an eye on throughout the last 8 months. But the truth is that I think we all share this feeling that equity needs to be applied from the nerve center. So it needs to be considered in the way that it's a pillar of all the decisions that we make, and all of the resources that we allocate, and all of the people that we bring to the table and who demand a seat at the table. So I want to acknowledge both of your efforts, even though your names aren't written on this committee, and hopefully it lives on for many years, and we'll all have the opportunity to serve on this committee, because we all have a lot to offer and a lot of passion. And the last thing that I'll say is, there's so much that the city takes on, and I can see how this would just be another thing. But what has become clear to us is there's so much momentum behind this, and it's largely driven by the advocates. So Encinitas for Equality is a group that formed in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. And I've been so impressed by this group of advocates who are teachers, who are lawyers, who are social workers, who are nonprofit professionals who show up week after week to work on these issues, and they're divided into committees. And I just had the privilege of attending their town hall, and they've really accomplished so much work already. And so what we're just doing is we're trying to institutionalize that education that they've already gained. They've already met with our city staff for hours on end, and they've already learned about some of the topics that we're dealing with here in the city. They've become experts on land use. They've become experts on density bonus and all of these things that are just complicated ways that we're trying to tackle the source of the problem, which largely manifests as symptoms in our city. So when we see homelessness, that's just a symptom of a problem. And I hope that this committee is really going to be working on issues that are the source of the problem. So those are the only comments that I want to make, and just reiterating my thanks for the advocates who have continued to run with this and continue to show up. And I'm really looking forward to having these difficult conversations.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for recognizing the advocates, really critical, and also our colleagues, because I know, there are always these different ideas of, well, why don't we change the school district liaison committee, or why don't we change the public safety committee or commission, or, so all the different ways this could go. And I think you said it so perfectly when you said in the nerve center. That's why it reports to the city council directly, so that it's in the nerve center. That's like a really great point. Deputy Mayor Krantz.
Yes, thank you for bringing this forward. My one disappointment was that it came kind of cooked with appointees already selected, because I was very interested in serving on something like this and had been exploring the best way to bring it forward. 5 years ago, I was fortunate enough to bring a council member initiated item to establish Encinitas as a welcoming community, and served on a subcommittee with council member Lisa Schaefer, and we had meetings that discussed ways that Encinitas could improve its ability to welcome new residents, new immigrants, and I think we did a fairly decent job of navigating that. I think that the times have changed, and that it is important that we kind of turn that conversation around and start talking to people about ways that they don't feel welcome, and that maybe they don't sense equity in our community. And so I welcome this this committee. That said, I think that it's really important that we define the policy objectives. And so, I don't know, I get the sense from reading this that maybe you're going to head off and have these conversations, but I would feel much better if we were able to reconvene and talk about this on an agenda in a couple of months that laid out the plan and kind of put some meat on the bones as to what the objective was or is, and where you think it's going to go, and at what points there will be check-ins with full council to present potential policy changes or the like. So I would feel better if we were, we kind of established some of those milestones up front, as opposed to just sending you off to have this conversation without any real clear strategy for when you might be back.
Yeah, well, let's just do that. We'll just come back, and I mean, it's the actual membership of the committee will come back too. So, at that point, you'll be able to approve who's on it. And then I agree with you. We should definitely come back and talk about what is it that this group looks like it's going to tackle, and where are we headed? So I think that's a great idea.
We could do similar to what we do with our other commissions, which is that there would be a work plan that would be presented to the city council, and we can discuss it from there, or a format that looks something like that. So, yeah, so there's so much to be said. I mean, I feel happy and grateful that this conversation is being had and that you guys brought this forward. Happy that as Councilwoman Kelly Shea-Hinsey had just stated that finally the social equity conversation that we've been having at the School District Liaison Committee has a home, and that it's going to be discussed further in some perhaps some recommendations are going to be coming forward in the future. I think it's important. You know, another thought that comes to mind is that you know, we heard from a lot of folks today that talked about their connection to Encinitas and the special place that this city is, and why it's special to them. And people talked about the vibes that they have and connections that they have. And for me and for a lot of Encinitans, you know, it's the inclusiveness of this community. It's the feeling that you are, like Deputy Mayor Kranz talked about, you are welcome. You know, not only, you know, in terms of immigrants, but you know, whoever you are welcome in our community, no exception. And I think that is something that's really special, and it's not something that you see in other places. And it's something that really attracted many of us to move to Encinitas and to commit ourselves to the city in many ways. And so, you know, I think that this is a great committee to have. Certainly, you know, when you look at 2020, there's a lot of things that in the newspaper today that reminds us of 2020, but 2020 certainly, you know, etches into stone the fact that we still have a long way to go and a lot of progress to be made in our society to become a more perfect union. And it's not just in, you know, other places. It's right here in Encinitas. It's right here in the county of San Diego. And so what better place to start than our own backyard, having these conversations, because all of the stuff that we've seen in 2020 needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed with examination, as Miss Hinsey talked about, and action. We need to do something about it. And so a committee like this is ingenious because it really allows us to bring together diverse voices in our community and really have a dialogue about things that perhaps are hard to discuss, and think about ways that we can achieve real action and results and recommendations that we can kind of put in place. And there's so many things, even, the other day we're having a discussion of the San Diego Community Power, and we're talking about communities of concern and how to focus certain low-income programs on in some of our cities. And, Encinitas doesn't have any data about communities of concern or in any way of identifying areas that are low income. San Diego has had huge policies on communities of concern, and they know exactly where some of their areas of community concerns are. And so, I mean, there's a plethora of, of social equity inclusive policies that we are starting to look at STCP for purchasing of all of our different, power supplies and all kinds of things that I think that we should be looking at in the city of San Diego. So anyways, long story short, I applaud the mayor. I applaud Councilwoman Shea Hinsey for bringing this forward. And I look forward to the dialogue. I look forward to the work product in terms of what we're going to focus, what the committee will focus on. And ultimately, I look forward to getting recommendations that are going to help us make progress in our city. And so thank you for bringing this forward.
Okay, so I mean, maybe I'll move the recommendation, the recommended action, and then we'll come back. The staff, we'll get the application together, we'll open it, and then we'll come back. Does that work for the city manager and city attorney?
So you don't need to vote on it?
We do, probably. Yeah.
Motion, I need a second.
I'll second that motion. And I just wanted to make sure that Councilmember Krantz is comfortable in that it's going to take probably some staff time between now and the next time we come back with a more clear-cut proposal to be checking in and keeping the council updated on the work of this committee. Okay.
I was just looking for a commitment that, there was no nothing defined in this report. I know council member initiated items are generally pretty threadbare. And so, you know, my expectation would be that now that we have some direction and we are dedicating some staff time to it, that there will be an effort to kind of put together a roadmap for the next 6 to 12 months or whatever you anticipate it's going to take, or however long you think it's going to go, or whatever, you know. So I think that would be useful for everybody. And I also ran across not long ago the Coastal Mobility Livability Working Group agenda item, where the groups that had agency were identified in that, and members were selected for that group. And so maybe I think that was Mayor Blakespeare brought that forward a few years back, and maybe something like that would be worth looking at again to see if there are any similarities with the way we operated with that group.
You know, one of the things I was going to say is that I mean, the way that we operate with our commissions is that we do like strategic planning in March or April, and then that helps inform the goals and the work plan of our commissions. The only issue that I have with that with this committee is that I think it really is, I would, if we are truly successful in bringing together some of the real diverse voices of our community, I would like to hear from them in terms of what is most pressing and what we should be addressing. And so I guess I would rather, as opposed to the commissions, I'd rather have almost a bottom-up approach with this committee, where we're really kind of working to field to bring on board you know, just these folks in the community that really reach, you know, a diverse groups in our community, and they're able to help us really understand what is most pressing.
That's right. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote.
Okay, Councilmember Hensy,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Krantz,
Yes.
and Mayor Blakespeare.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody, on that item. So does anybody have any reports that they want to share?
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Krantz.
I had a special opportunity on Monday to cut the ribbon on a multi-million-dollar locomotive at the Oceanside Transit Center. It was kind of fun to speak and share the podium with our Mayor Blakespeare, who spoke on behalf of, in her role as chairwoman of the Sandag. And so we have 2 new locomotives and refurbished train sets that go with it. So you'll see some brand new spiffy coaster trains running the tracks. And when you see tracks, think trains, because they're going to be very, very quiet. As Sean mentioned this morning, I mean earlier, it just seems like it was morning, kind of a long meeting. But anyhow, it was a great event, plenty of media coverage. And I appreciate Mayor Blakespeare's participation in that. Congressman Levin was there as well. And he says, go big. He says that President Biden is going to be doing some infrastructure work. And so we should be scrambling to get our ducks in a row for a number of infrastructure issues here in Encinitas.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. That was great. That was the first in-person event I've done in 11 months. And so it was really quite fun to be out. I mean, we were socially distanced with masks, but there were big trains and we were talking about big important issues. And so it was fun to do that event. And I'm glad that you organized that in person.
Yes, and my hope is that within the next few months, we can start running weekend trains again. And I want to organize a bike ride kind of thing where we can throw our bikes on the coaster and go somewhere and then ride our bikes back. Now that I've got an e-bike, I'm a hard charger because I don't have to worry so much about them damn hills.
Right. Yeah, well, and I'll just emphasize that the main thing that I think I said in my remarks was that Sandag put $50 million into new trains, and that was a contested decision. And if you believe in transit and you have invested in the train tracks, you have to put money into the trains themselves, or you won't have a good transit system. And it's so, making that decision at the Sandag board a few years back, or a year and a half or so ago, and then having the big trains be there and appear was really exciting, because you see the effect of those big decisions we make. So it's great to see that.
And I appreciate your leadership on that. And it is pretty critical that we expand the fleet of vehicles. The rolling stock is not adequate. So we are expanding. That's great. The other issue that's really important is that those new locomotives were bought with Transnet dollars. And there was a commitment in the Transnet 2 measure that identified coaster locomotives and train sets as part of what they would be pursuing to improve the system. So it was making good to the voter, making good on a promise to the voters.
Yes, that's a great point. And when you say Transnet, if people don't know what that means is that you pay a 50-cent sales tax whenever you buy something in our county, and that money is going to this transit improvement. And so it's great to have that, to recognize that connection between our local sales tax and what we're getting out of it. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, Councilmember Hinsey, did you have your little hand up?
My little hand was up, and all I wanted to say was that I was able to serve on behalf of the mayor for the city selection committee to appoint new members to the County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board. And it was really an inspiring meeting because the Environmental Health Coalition put together a slate of candidates from each of the 5 supervisorial districts to represent us. And they all represent communities that are historically marginalized and also have the worst air quality and have the most impacts due to environmental pollution. And so I'm happy to announce that Councilmember Consuelo Martinez from the city of Escondido will be representing District 3. So she'll be representing essentially the city of Encinitas on that board. And yeah, it was a great opportunity. So I'm grateful I got to do that.
Yes, thank you for filling in. Both the mayor and the deputy mayor were at the press conference at that moment about on the trains. So I'm grateful that you were able to fill in. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Mosca.
My little hand. I did want to, we don't want to get into a Trump discussion, right? But I did want to add that San Diego Community Power recently set some of its revenue requirements, and SDG&E has recently come out with some of their forecasts and their rates. And so I want to say that I am very optimistic about our future rates. Are optimistic for our base product, and also 100% keenly aware that our city is looking to move up to Power 100, which is the name for our 100% renewable energy product. And so our staffs have been working together on a presentation, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have this back before the city council probably in a few weeks to discuss, or maybe by March, no later than March, we'll discuss both the different products that we offer, and see what the pleasure is of the City Council of Encinitas in terms of whether we want to opt up to 100% for the entire city, or what we want to do. But that is coming back to our City Council in the future.
Okay, great. Good to hear. City manager report.
No report today, Madam Mayor.
Okay, city attorney report.
No report today.
Okay, city clerk report.
Just a reminder that the District 3 City Council vacancy application period closes tomorrow, February 11th at 5 o'clock.
Okay, and how many applicants do we have so far? Is it
we now have 7.
7, okay. Okay.
Oceanside had 36. What's going on in Encinitas? Hey, I have a question for the city manager. There were oral communication issues related to Glen Park, and I wonder if you could speak to issues related to the homelessness issues at Glen Park and other public parks.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I did want to report that we have been working with not only our own housing and homeless
team leader, Jennifer Gates, as well as the Sheriff's Department to do some additional outreach to folks that have been gathering at the park to remind people that the park does close and that it is not a appropriate place for people to sleep. And I did hear from Jennifer Gates today that they have found supportive housing for most of the people that were at the park the last couple of weeks, which is great news. Unfortunately, we also had some citations and an arrest that was made, which was great for the sheriff to be able to interact with some folks that perhaps they were looking for. And so we, I think, have really great energy now around doing some outreach as well as some additional patrols by the Sheriff Department that hopefully between the two. And that also includes our social worker that we pay for through the county has made contact with folks in the park as well. So we hope to see that situation turning around for the better.
I appreciate that. I'm most concerned about the comments relating to mental health issues as well as violence. So I appreciate the proactivity and keeping the sheriffs engaged there so that people feel safe. I did go by the park this weekend and saw a whole bunch of very happy people. So that was good. But, you know, I trust these letters we're getting that those incidents are actually happening, and anything we can do to address them, I really appreciate the efforts of staff and the sheriff's office.
Yes, and if I just might add one more thing. One thing that we are trying to convey to folks that call in is that everyone, and certainly the council, is very concerned about anyone that we find that is in need of some type of supportive housing. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, the shelters that are available in North County have a lowered number of beds that they're allowed because of the social distancing. So there are less shelter beds available than normal, which is why folks are seeing, not just in Encinitas, but in all communities in California, an increase in folks that are unhoused on the streets. So I would say that our North County regional team, along with Jennifer Gates and the folks in community development, are working really hard to find other spaces and also to provide more housing vouchers so that we can find places. No one wants to sleep outside, especially with the weather kind of cold and damp. So we are all working together to try to make some additional progress in that area.
Thank you.
I have noticed that I mean I guess I'll just say this, but it has been said before. You know, I have personally noticed the increase of mentally ill folks that are hanging out around 7-Eleven in that park. I often park, my husband and I park right around that area to go running around the CRT, and it's in the last few weeks there's often 2 or 3 males that are having conversations with themselves and just screaming sometimes and coming out of 7-Eleven screaming. And so it has increased a lot, more than I've seen in any other park, you know, but Cottonwood is also a lot of mentally ill folks, but I have seen Glen Park just increase in a big way.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for providing that update. I'm grateful that Councilmember Kranz asked you about that, City Manager, and you could give us the update because we did obviously have a number of public comments about it, and it's clearly an emerging problem, and it's something we need to be dealing with. And we will have our homeless action plan on the agenda in upcoming weeks very soon here. So staff is just getting that finalized.
It's February 24th, Madam Mayor.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm glad we have the date. That's great. Okay, so our next meeting is a joint special meeting with City Council and Planning Commission on February 16, 2021. And then the next night, we have our regular council meeting on January 17, 2021. So with that, we are adjourned. Good night.